What the heck? The music was supposed to fade out all gracefully and stuff. We're off to a great start tonight. Hello, everyone. Who's here tonight? I just hopped over from watching the live, the hang up. So still my brain's still switching into different gear here. Epicurious of Samos. How you doing? I know who you are. You can't hide from me. I know who you are. But yeah, welcome. Good to have you here. Pragmatic Crystal, as always, thank you for promoting the show. Pragmatic's great. Just everywhere, just promoting the culture, promoting the community. It's awesome. Yeah, it's so great to have you here. Ember, hey man. Good to see you. Tell me more. Welcome. There's Eddie Dean, one of my first super chatters ever on a live stream, like almost a year ago. So nice to have you here. So you have 2 for 2 on this live stream. Usually miss everything. Hey man, so great to have you here. I hate it when I always step in on a part 2 and it's like a live stream. I was like, oh, what was in part 1? I don't know what was going on there. So, but this will be a part 2 on talking about JW's cult status. And so yeah, but I'll give a quick recap for anybody who hasn't watched it from before. Skeptics and Scoundrels, hey friends, just ignore that guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about at all. Super sus. Sumami, cello. Always great to see you, Sumami. And I think that's it. Oh, nope. Tessen, welcome. And James Apperson, welcome. We were both in Jefferson Spatchcock's live stream earlier today, James. You mentioned, let me think here. You mentioned something. That's right. It was a Jefferson Spatchcock stream on Darth Dawkins, and you said the name Barf Balkans, which made me go to Midjourney, and I generated something that I want to give you. I reached out to you on Twitter. Reach back or reconnect to me on Twitter so I can send you a private text and I'll send you the file. I think you might like it. Yeah, so great to see you. Freak King, welcome. It's good to have you here too. And so you have again, I grew up a mile or two from a JW hall. They never came around. That's surprising. So the way Jehovah's Witnesses work with their preaching is they each congregation is assigned a territory, and that territory is just like a chunk of the local map. If you have multiple congregations in the area, they each have like their own assigned territory. And by their rules, they aren't supposed to like cross over and they can obviously traverse through territories and stuff, but they can't go preaching in another congregation's territory unless they are invited by somebody in that congregation. I know this because I used to one of my duties as a ministerial servant. I actually in North Carolina, I made all the maps that are used for the preaching in our local territory. So I basically had to take an actual real local map, and I had to break up that map into sections, and they break them up into these territory cards, or like kind of like sub-territory cards. And so each card is assigned to a publisher in the congregation, and then that publisher in the congregation, they actually will go out and preach those collection of streets. And it was like, depending on the size of the territory card, it could be a few streets that you can maybe knock out in like a day or two, or there might be like a larger territory card where it's like, okay, we need, probably teams of people to go in here over a couple weeks and knock it all out. So living near a congregation or living near a Kingdom Hall, that would definitely put you at high probability of being visited by somebody at the door. So maybe you just had the bad luck that they had the bad luck of not being able to catch you when you were home, or maybe they overlooked you somehow. Like the system is not perfect. Each congregation self-organizes and figures out how to tackle their territory individually. There's like some guidelines, but for the most part, each congregation, it's up to each congregation to handle it. Each congregation assigns it to somebody like me, and then that person that was assigned may or may not take his job very seriously. So I took my job kind of seriously. I cranked out 1 or 2 new maps before every meeting, so I would be able to like show up and go, hey, I made this some work. And every time I went to a meeting, I had a couple of new cards, but I usually like cranked them out like a couple hours before because I'm a huge procrastinator. Anyway, that's a little tangent, but that's how witnesses handle their preaching work. They have territory cards they assign out, And if you get called on by somebody in the congregation and you tell them to go away or tell them no, chances are they'll be back within 6 months to a year, because that's when the territory card is recycled through the system and is assigned to somebody else. Cool, James. Sounds good. Yeah, just reach out to me on Twitter. You should. I connected to you today. You should see it in your history, and then I can send you that file. Let's see here. Who else is showing up? Oh wait, James, you were a JW? I did not know this. You did grow up at JW back in the 80s, never missed a door, but they are, and you were an auxiliary pioneer. Wow, I did not know this about you. Well then, brother. It's nice to nice to see a fellow ex-brother. Yeah, I was a regular pioneer for a while, not for very long, maybe about a year. I made it all the way up to ministerial servant and regular pioneer. I worked with the regional building committee. I did some hurricane relief work in Florida, and that's when I flared out. Personal drama happened. We had a death in the hall that nobody really handled very well. And that was kind of the first domino that tipped over, and it just kind of went downhill from there. So anyway, that might be something, and that might be like details I might share one day. But for the most part, that was kind of the start of it. I was at my peak, and I was like flying high, and then just a crash. Like I was Icarus. I flew too close to the sun, and my wings melted, and just boom. So, oh hey, here's another story. Okay, so yeah, quick builds. I did participate in a couple quick builds myself. So witnesses build. This is a whole nother rabbit hole. But the way the witnesses do their hall building, and the way they source local labor from the congregation, basically free labor, because most witnesses are blue collar workers, are usually in construction, or if they aren't, there's some construction folk in the area that they can do the work, and then the witnesses like offer helping hands. So anyway, it's a lot of free labor, like a ton of it. So much so that you're literally have like hundreds of people on site at a Kingdom Hall build. And there's some halls that went up within a matter of days. Like literally it went from a slab of concrete to pretty much a finished building within a few days. And it was very impressive to watch. And it's impressive because they had so much free labor to throw at it. I mean, so much that many people are just sitting around and doing nothing, or just watching it. And yeah, I wish I can dig up some more photos of that. But yeah, I've participated in a quick builder too. So cool, James. Well, that's great. I new thing learned about you. So that's awesome. So yeah, this is our second live stream. We're going to go more into JWs and their cult status, actually examining their own literature and examining their own defense at being accused of being a cult. And we started last week. We started with just their FAQ. And their FAQ is essentially stating, hey, we've been accused of being a cult. Here's two loose definitions. And they framed it as, here's what some people call cults. And they had like 2 bullet points. And then we kind of went into it. And the bullet points were, see here. Let me actually bring it up here so we can quickly review it. And we'll go into the more in-depth article. And if there's any theists or Christians in the call, we only have 12 people right now, so it's probably unlikely. But in case you are there, use the StreamYard link. Oh, that's right. I gotta pin it so people can see it. Yeah, feel free to call in. Let's have a conversation. I'm practicing street epistemology. I just want to, do a better job at talking to folks. And so yeah, let's do that. And then my YouTube's been weird. I have to like refresh the page before I can right click something and pin it. There we go. Cool. All right. So that's up there and pinned. Let's go ahead and share this. Then what's hold on here. Remove, share. I don't like how my thumbnail goes all the way over and becomes tiny. I probably have to work on some layouts. You can do that. Do that. That's better. It's more better. Okay. Anyway, so let's pop over here and we'll go to the search on jw.org. We'll type in cult. And then, yeah, here's their fact. Are JWs a cult? Very, very brief FAQ, but basically say cult is being a new or unorthodox religion. And we talked about how the witnesses will, out of one side of their mouth, tell you that, hey, we're a new religion. Look how fast we've grown. This means God's blessing us. We were only started in the late 1800s. And then out of the other side of their mouth, they will say, oh, but we're really old because we are the closest thing to the original, congregation, the original church that the apostles formed after Jesus' death. So they're basically applying either the new or old status depending on how it suits them. But it doesn't matter how new an organization is. You can have a very old cult. It's just, yeah, the age of the organization is irrelevant. And unorthodox is going to be very subjective. Like, what is an unorthodox religion? Well, I mean, they're Unitarians. Unitarians considered unorthodox because Trinitarian is considered orthodox, in my knowledge. And there's other unorthodox beliefs that the witnesses have. They have blood transfusion restrictions. They have shunning. They have the idea that all other religions are false, and there's no other way to come into Jehovah's good graces unless it's through his one and true earthly organization, the Jehovah's Witnesses, which is led by the governing body, which is a bunch of men in New York. So it depends on how you frame it. Like, are they unorthodox? Yeah, I think so in many respects. In other respects, they're very mundane. So anyway, that's not a very good definition of a cult. And it's not even really a definitions they're offering here. They're simply saying, some people say, like, oh, rumor has it that a cult is this. And yeah. And then the second one is something of cult as being a dangerous religion sect with a human leader. And I pointed that out last week. They're going to really hammer home, at least in the fact here and also in the article, a leader, like as if the number of human leaders has an effect on whether it's a cult or not. The Moonies were a couple, a husband and wife, and they were, cult leaders. Nothing stops you from adding a few people to your group and just having a group of humans, and they're supreme leaders of the organization. They're unquestionable, and the witnesses, I believe, have 9. Another funny story. They had 8 for the longest time, and it was kind of a fun. It was a fun little nickname that they had. It was called the Octopope, because they're essentially the Pope. Like the group, as a group, they're essentially the Pope. They are um, in. I'd be very careful the way I word this. Not exactly like the Pope, but it was basically the Pope. Like they are to be completely unchallenged when it comes to matters of theocracy, matters of doctrine. They are not to be basically challenged on any of this. And so they got the name Octopope from ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. They added 2 new members to the governing bodies, and then they were up to 10. And then they immediately deleted one of their members, which hasn't happened in like 50 years. I don't think, maybe since the 70s they deleted a member. And the member they deleted was a guy named Tony Morris, who's so many things we can talk about him. But anyway, so now I think they're at 9, which is really weird. And I guess you can't really. They literally vote on matters of doctrine too. Like they'll actually have a vote, and 2/3 majority, I think, is what rules. So it's good to have. Well, actually, no, not 9, because you have a 2/3 majority at 6. Yeah, I guess that would work. You never have a 50-50 draw there. So yeah, 9 members is good. Okay, and then the next one is something of a cult as being a dangerous religious sect with a human leader. We mentioned the human leader part, just singular, but also dangerous. Like, okay, what is dangerous? Are they bunkering up in a bunker in Waco, Texas, with guns and improper fire code building? No, but the religion will kill you. Like, you can go in and you can become a member, and you can get cancer, or you can get a open heart surgery, or you can be in a car accident, and you need blood to survive either the trauma that you're currently in or the operation you're about to go under, but you're restricted from having blood transfusions because of their doctrine. So that's, in a regard, that's dangerous. Members have committed suicide from being ostracized and shunned by their family because they decided to leave. Yeah, so I mean, by both these unofficial definitions, it applies to them. But anyway, far from, and then down here, the false dichotomy of far from being a dangerous cult, Jehovah's Witnesses practice of religion that's Christian. They're like, we're not a cult, we're Christian. Like, yeah, there's plenty of Christian cults out there. That's not a defense either. So anyway, that's the witnesses. That's their their FAQ. But if we go back here, we're going to actually look at a Watchtower article for their it's a bit of a deeper dive into whether they are a cult or not. And we kind of touched on this a little bit last week, and I'll just quickly skim what we went over, and then we'll go more into the new stuff. And then if we don't have any theist callers call in, I'll open the room up, and anybody can just join in and chat. Okay, so yeah, before we start, who we have new here? Said hi to Ember, said hi to everybody else. Pandora's Pinata, welcome. Cool. With the 8 popes, you can put them in a raid for maximum throughput and redundancy. Yep. I guess it depends. If they were a raid array, what would they be? Would it be redundancy or would it be speed? It's probably redundancy. Yeah, definitely redundancy. So it's a raid 1, I believe. I haven't set up. For those who don't know tech stuff, a RAID is when you set up multiple storage devices in parallel, and they can either work together as one, or they can work together as like a redundancy, like for copies. So anyway, kind of geek stuff right there. Okay, so it's a 1 + 0 according to Pandora. Cool. Nara, welcome. Okay, so let's get back here. So the first thing you go into is this article from 1994. So they are immediately talking about one of the most extreme cases of cult violence up to that date, and this was the Waco, Texas Branch Davidians incident, where there was a standoff. It was a compound in Waco, Texas. These cultists were essentially bunkered up inside with their leader. I think it was David Koresh. I think he was there. Excuse me. And anyway, it was a multi-day standoff. It was all over the news. In 1993, I was 11, and I remember seeing this on TV, even as an 11-year-old. So anyway, it ultimately culminated in, I think it was one of the attempts to breach the compound with like a team of like a SWAT team was trying to breach the compound. It's unclear who started the fire, but something started a fire, whether it was one of the members or something maybe like one of the SWAT members knocked over when they were breaching, but the whole place went up in flames and a lot of people died. 86 dead, including at least 17 children. And so this article was written a year after the Waco incident. So it was very, very fresh in people's minds at this point, even though I don't know why they don't call it by name here. They mention the state, details on numbers of people dead and such, and they don't bother mentioning it. And then they go to mention other high profile cult incidents by name. They mention Manson murders. They mention Jonestown. They mention Park Soon-ja, Korea, which led to the death of 32 people. And then here, significantly, most of these people claim to be Christian. Of course, the No True Scotsman right here claimed to be Christian. Well, they believed in Christ. Like they were Christian. Like that's my definition of what a Christian is. Anyway, they claim to be Christian and profess belief in the Bible. So this kind of challenges the going back to the fact where they were basically setting the dichotomy of cult or Christian. And here they're saying, well, they were a cult which professed to be Christian. And they would probably talk to them now. They probably try to paint it as, well, they weren't true Christians. But according to the witnesses, nobody's true Christians except them. Like even Catholicism, even the Protestants, even Lutherans, no one else is a true Christian. They are the true Christians because they have the religion most closely resembles the apostles' religion formed after Jesus died. Like that's their reasoning. So they'll just No True Scotsman all over the place when it comes to that. But essentially, there's no dichotomy there. Like it's you can be a Christian and a cult. They're not mutually exclusive. Anyway, understandably, many who respect the Bible as a word of God are appalled at the brazen misuse of the scriptures by these cults. Again, the Bible, like how is the Bible misused by these organizations? Because for just about any scripture that can be used to challenge what these organizations did, there can be scriptures used to support them. we can find scriptures that talk about having faith in the face of diversity. Narrow is the road, and a few who follow it. The governments, you will be hated by the world. The governments will come after you. Like there's all kinds of scriptures that support what happened, what these groups did, and what ultimately happened to them. So it's like it's just a matter of interpretation. So it really raises the question: why are we using the Bible for these types of evaluations? Like, how does the Bible at all come into in evaluating whether something is a cult or not? The witnesses, of course, would say that, oh, well, the Bible is God's word and lays out true worship. But if that's the case, why is it used so much in so many inappropriate ways? Why does it justify what these other groups did? Why does it justify slavery? Why does it get misinterpreted over and over and over again? Why is it so poorly written? And yeah, it's like they don't understand that the book itself is useless when it comes to evaluating whether something's objectively something. It doesn't at all have the word cult inside of it. It doesn't at all refer to anything that resembles it. It's not a handbook at all for it. It's entirely arbitrary, them saying that, well, if you truly follow the Bible, you can't be a cult, is essentially what they're saying. And we know that doesn't follow. Okay. As a result, over the years, hundreds of organizations have been established for the purpose of monitoring cults and exposing their dangerous practices, even more so now today. This is oddly prophetic because, as Pragmatic Crystal just brought out, Stephen Hassan's the BITE model of authoritarian control stands for behavior, information, thought, and emotion control. And I think it's not the model that it's not the end all be all model of what a cult is, but it is extremely robust and it is very useful because not only does it granularly lay out criteria for what a high control group is, it gives you bullet points for each one of these categories where you can go, for behavior control, you can look at the Jehovah's Witnesses and go, oh, behavior control. What about the witnesses are under the category of behavior control? Well, they control what you dress. They control what movies you watch, what entertainment you look at. They control what friends you can have. If you decide to leave the religion, they will tell in members that, hey, don't associate with Eric anymore. That's bad association. And then we can go into the other letters as well. And you have bullet points, like, dozens of bullet points under each one of these categories that show what that give you criteria and a metric to measure an organization against. And the BITE model is not exclusive against religion. It can be a commercial organization. It can be a political organization. It could be MLMs. It can be religion, of course, or even just like a high school hangout club after school. Like you can evaluate that with this. That's why I like the BITE model. I like it a lot. I prefer using it. But it's just one model among many, but it happens to be a pretty robust one, which I really appreciate. But for the sake of this stream, we can just simply look at the BITE model as like just a loose guide, because the BITE model, like I said, it lays out those 4 categories really well, but essentially just boils down to a high control group, a group that exerts undue influence and control over an individual's life is probably the best way we can really look at it. So, but yeah, thanks, Prag, for posting that up there. No Epicurious, no callers yet. But we'll go into this a little bit more, and we'll get some callers some time to get in here. But okay, then. All right, we'll keep on going then. All right. So anyway, what is a cult? So hey, okay, I'm really looking forward to what the witnesses think a cult is, instead of just here's some hearsay for what a cult is. We can actually hopefully maybe dig into it. And at this point, I haven't browsed this article too much, so I'm in it for the same surprise as you are. The term cult is used loosely by many who are not fully aware of its connotations. That's true. I mean, it's a very, very fuzzy word. It's a very soft word. It's used by many different people in many different ways. And unfortunately, that's exactly what cults like, because cults can take advantage of that murky water to throw a fast one by you, to defend themselves by not, concretely defining it. To prevent confusion, some theologians actually avoid using the term, and they go into how the World Book Encyclopedia explains that traditionally the term cult referred to any form of worship or ritual observance. And in the broadest sense, that's correct. It's how it kind of was used historically. But it's overly broad. It essentially turns the word cult into a synonym for religion. And if you have two words meaning the same thing, why have two words? Just say, call it a religion. By that criterion, all religions are cults. Yep, that's fine. That still makes the term useless. So who cares? But today, cult is a different meaning. The same encyclopedia notes that since the mid 1900s, publicity about cults have altered the meaning of the term. Today, the term is applied to groups that follow a living leader, again, singular, a living leader who promotes new or unorthodox doctrines and practices. So, again, a new leader promotes new and unorthodox doctrines and practices. And we already talked about that, how the witnesses fit both of these. If you simply drop that singular, you're in witness territory here. Endorsing the popular term usage of the term, Newsweek magazine explains that cults are, quote, a normally small fringe group whose members derive their identity and purpose from a single charismatic individual. Well, that's kind of what we got today. I mean, you call that charismatic individual Jesus in many cases. The witnesses, the governing body, they claim that Christ is the leader of the organization, but they are basically the spokesman for Christ and also for Jehovah God. So they're basically trying to have it both ways, saying, oh, we defer to Jesus, but oh, by the way, Jesus speaks through us, so listen to us. And oh, don't worry, we really prayed to Jesus about this issue, and that's why we are deciding now to allow beards, or this is why we're deciding now to drop the minimum requirement for hours to remain a publisher. Like everything is prayerfully done to Jesus through them, or at least so they claim. Which is another funny thing too, is that I mentioned earlier how they have like a majority vote. If they are split on a matter, they will actually vote on it. And if they're all praying to the same God, and they're all praying for the same thing, and they're all members of the organization that is supposed to be God's mouthpiece on earth, why do they have differing opinions when it comes to certain issues? Why do they even have to have a vote? Wouldn't they all feel the Holy Spirit stir in them and all come to the same universal conclusion? Like, imagine they're all sitting around a table and they say, okay, everybody pray. And then say the first word that comes out of your mouth, yay or nay. They all pray, and then everyone gets up and says yay, or everyone gets up and says nay. And 100% every time it happens. That'd be impressive. That might be some indication that they have some type of divine guidance. But the fact that they have to have a majority vote tells me that never happens, or almost never happens. Maybe it happens on the same, frequency as chance, maybe. Okay, so let's keep going here. Okay, we already went over that. New religious creed, blah, blah, blah. We went over that already. Oh, that we did talk about this last week a little bit. This is a little bit familiar. But anyway, they zero in on the 100th Congress of the state of Maryland, USA, because they probably looked at a bunch of state dictates about what a cult is, and this one probably fit them the best. But that thing says that a cult is a group or movement exhibiting excessive devotion to a person or idea and employing unethically manipulative techniques or persuasion and control to advance the goals of its leaders. And this also fits JWs to a T, even though they won't admit it. Excessive devotion to a person or idea. Excessive devotion is essentially you are willing. It's when you have excessive devotion to something, it's you get put into a situation where you're willing to sacrifice too much. And witnesses will absolutely sacrifice everything all the way up to their lives for their organization, whether it's through refusing a blood transfusion, or whether it's refusing military service all the way up to the point of being executed by the government that they're refusing to serve under. Banning, the witness preaching work has been banned in many nations, but witnesses still go out and preach and risk, imprisonment, risk death. That's been the case in a few countries, and Russia, I think especially, is kind of one they like to zero in on, because Russia has really treated the witnesses pretty badly when it comes to imprisonment and banning them and such. Russia's Russia; they're going to do shitty things to people. But the fact that these people are willing to utterly sacrifice everything, their familial ties, their jobs, their careers, their money, their livelihood, their well-being, and their lives, does that not fit this description of a movement exhibiting excessive devotion to a person or idea? Like a mother sacrificing the association of her child because her child decided, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't think this religion's true. Or a person saying, oh, you want me to serve in the military? No. Oh, you're going to shoot me for it? Well, still no. So yeah, I mean, it fits. The glove fits. Anyway, employing unethically manipulative techniques. We'll talk about that probably more a little bit. I mentioned shunning. Shunning is unethically manipulative. It is considered cruel and unusual punishment. It is considered emotional and mental abuse by many scientists. Humans are social creatures. We need, or many of us need, to have a social circle, and we need to have people around us that we can trust and care for, and have people that trust and care for us. Like it's built into us. We are a social species. And in my case, I got very lucky. So maybe I shouldn't use me as a case, but let's say a guy named Max was a witness, born into a witness household, was indoctrinated into the religion. Literally, his entire family are witnesses. Every single friend and acquaintance he has, they're all in the church. Anybody that he gets to know at school, he is not permitted to hang out with after school. He can talk to them at school as long as those conversations are always nudged towards preaching. But he can't go to play video games with a friend after school. He can't go join basketball practice after school. Can't do extracurricular activities because he has to get home and either study or go to a meeting. Can't have any worldly association. 1 Corinthians 15:33. So imagine Max growing up in that type of environment. Max hits adulthood. His brain finally fully develops around the age 25. And he starts thinking critically, and he puts things together and says, wait a minute, hold on, this doesn't make sense. Like, I found a contradiction in the belief, or I've noticed hypocrisy in the congregation, and that's kind of making me question whether or not these guys are really spokespeople for God. And Max wakes up and says, this religion is untrue, and I don't want to be a part of it anymore. If Max makes that announcement to his family, and his family are all devout witnesses, they will shun him. They will kick him out of the house if he's still living there, and they're legally able to do so. Like, if he's over 18, kick him out of the house, will not talk to him, will not answer his phone calls. He could get hit by a car and in the hospital and dying. And if he had not yet repented or came back to the organization, his family will not visit him. All of his friends in his congregation, same story. They won't associate with him. They won't support him. He will lose everything. And as a social species, as social creatures, this is extremely threatening for us, because our safety and our strength as a social species comes from supporting one another in a community. And if you are suddenly an outcast out of that community, you're essentially like, imagine our ancestors, 100,000 years ago, you're kicked out of the village. That's probably a death sentence. You can no longer rely on the other hunters and gatherers in the camp. If you get sick, you aren't going to have anybody there to watch out for you and feed you while you're recovering. You are at an extremely high chance of death at that point, unless you can either find another community, or you luck out and you can just somehow wing it on your own and not get injured and not get sick and do all your hunting and do all your building. Like it's your chances of survival drop drastically. And that's why it's so frightening for us to do things like, in my opinion, I think that's why it's so frightening for us to do things like go up and do public speaking, or to go out and kind of put yourself out there in at risk of embarrassment, at risk of ostracization in the community. It's an ingrained fear in us that we don't want to become outcasts, because if you become an outcast, you aren't going to have that support. Your chance of survival is going to go down. your chance of reproducing is going to go down if nobody likes you or you're an outcast. It's so inbuilt into us, and it's such a inbuilt fear. And the witnesses take advantage of that by creating a scenario where everything that supports you is ripped out from under you. So anyway, that's my long tangent on why shunning is unethically manipulative. It's a technique of persuasion and control in advance of the advantage of the leaders of this group. It's it's disgusting. And I think I'm just recalling this, so don't take it at my word. But I think the United Nations, who the witnesses hate, by the way, it's an affront to God because reasons. But anyway, the United Nations are bad people to the witnesses. The United Nations, I think, had a Declaration of Human Rights, and I think one of those rights is the ability to freely choose your religion without fear of repercussions from those around you. And you know, rights are subjectively created and given to us by organizations, man-made organizations, which is fine. That's just reality what rights are. So you can say, I don't think that should be a right. Some people might say that, but the United Nations says it is a right, and the witnesses say no, it's not. Or even if the witnesses do say that it's a right, it's superseded by that loyalty to their idea of a God. So, here we go. 1 Corinthians 15:33. I mentioned this last week. This was the very, very first scripture that I was told to memorize by my older brother. Made me memorize it, and it was exactly used for that. Yep, bad associations spoil useful habits. So for everybody who's here listening to me, I am bad associations, and I will spoil your useful habits, like getting to bed on time. Alma, nice to see you. All right, well, let's keep on going then. Do I have to click on the same comment again to clear it, or I can just click another comment and then re-click it? Yep, I'll drink to that. I might hold a vote a little later on whether I should crack open a beer or not. I've been saying 100% sober for these, but maybe we'll see. All right. Clearly, cults are generally understood to be religious groups with radical views and practices that clash with what is accepted today as normal social behavior. Okay, it's getting a little redundant here. Devotion to self-proclaimed human leaders is likely to be unconditional and exclusive. So yeah, the devotion to the governing body, it's unconditional and exclusive. I'm going to definitely do a video on this, but here's how bizarre it kind of gets. Their recent announcement that beards are now allowed within the organization. They were first not allowed in the organization. It was fairly explicit in some of their publications that beards are not the look they wanted to have externally towards people on the outside. Like the optics were bad. Beards are hippie-ish. Beards are I won't call it unclean because that's like a very specific term, but beards are like sloppy. You're not clean shaven. You're not professional. You lack something when you have a beard. And that was the mentality in the organization the entire time. Anyway, just a few weeks ago, they said, no more beards. And then they immediately went into defending themselves because obviously people will say, well, I've been saying we should be able to have beards for years now. And now the governing body's finally caught up to my assessment. And the governing body member was basically trying to frame it as, well, even though you were technically right before we announced this, you were still wrong because you went against what we were saying. And so they're trying to frame it as, well, we were right the whole time, even though we just flip-flopped on this issue. And you were wrong, even though back when you were right, you were technically right, but you were wrong because you did not follow our direction. And yeah, it was a really bizarre announcement. I really want to break it down and kind of point out the contradictions and just kind of the absurdity of the whole thing. Okay, anyway, I think we finished this whole thing here. So this was the first of the two articles. We'll pop to the next article and hopefully get into kind of more meatier bits of it. Where's my next button? Maybe I'm zoomed in a little bit too far. There we go. Next button. This is like a two page or two article release back in '94. All right. Are Jehovah's Witnesses a cult? Okay, finally, let's see really what they say about it, because I'm really interested in what's going on here. And look, they are carpet bombing scriptures in here. So we'll take a look at some of these as we continue forward. Are Jehovah's Witnesses a cult? Jesus Christ was accused of being a drunkard, a glutton, a Sabbath breaker, and a false witness, a blasphemer of God, and a messenger of Satan. He was also accused of being subversive. Okay. Witnesses are accused of those things, and the witnesses have accused others of those things. So it's just a big accuse fest here, I guess. Um, After his resurrection, his disciples were likewise a target of serious accusations. So I haven't read this part yet, but I'm going to anticipate that they're going to frame themselves as, well, we are following the first apostles as closely as possible, so we can expect to be accused to be a cult. We can expect to get the same mistreatment and the same abuse from the non-believers, the non-true believers. One group of first century Christians were dragged into the city rulers by people crying out, "These men have overturned the inhabited earth." And so we have a scripture here at Acts. By the way, Gospels, all unverified hearsay, but let's just roll with it and just pretend that these are actually reliable historic accounts. Just pretend. So Acts 17:6. When they did not find them, they dragged Jason and some of the brothers to the city rulers, crying out, "These men who have overturned the inhabited earth are present here also." It's kind of grandiose. All right, I said we're going to treat these as historical accounts, but for a moment, let's not. How funny that they're like, "Wow, we changed the world." We back then, like they asked the apostles, we changed the world. Not only we changed the world, the non-believers admit we are changing the world. At this point, when was Acts written? Like these are the first few decades after Jesus died, is what Acts covers. Like, how far could have Christianity have spread at that point? Not very far. Did it spread all the way to Asia? I doubt it. Did it spread all the way up into the north, where the Germanic tribes were all, beating each other up? I doubt it. It's a pretty presumptuous, I think. Maybe just the world is the Jewish world, maybe, because obviously, Old Testament, the only world that mattered was the Israelites, because they were God's chosen people. Everyone else, the Gentiles, were just, they can just get fucked. So yeah, maybe just the world here refers to just the Jewish world, because those are the important guys back then. Al Trucker, welcome. And I think I saw, yep, Chrissy, welcome. So nice to have people here. Anyway, so okay, they're trying to frame themselves as being mistreated by the governments. On another occasion, the Apostle Paul and his companion Silas were taken to the authorities in charge with greatly disturbing the city of Philippi. Paul was later accused of more history stuff. I don't want to dig much deeper into this. This is like kind of getting redundant. Well, whatever. So Paul was later accused of being a pestilent fellow and stirring up seditions among all the Jews through the inhabited earth and trying to profane the temple, whatever that means. So yeah, evidently this new group established by Jesus Christ was considered by some to be a religious group with radical views and practices that clashed with what was accepted in those days as normal social behavior. Yeah, they were a cult. Let's actually look at the first century Christians. How cult-like were they? We can't really apply the Bible model because we don't have like that in-depth. Well, maybe we can apply the Bible model. Let's maybe try that in here a little bit, but let's just go by the witnesses' definitions. New group, unorthodox teachings, devotion, suicidal devotion to a singular leader, stirring up trouble. Yeah, like even by their own admission, that's a cult. So yeah, the first century Christians were a cult. Undoubtedly, many today would have considered the Christians to be a destructive cult. Hey, wow, look at that! Just they read my mind. I wonder why I think that. Well, maybe because they set out reasons to think something's a cult, and then they explained to me why the first century Christians fit that. Maybe that's why. The accusers were often prominent, respected members of the community, and this seems to have added weight to the allegations. So basically, the accusers were just more established people in the community. So probably pointing at people like governments, public figures, news outlets. Is probably what they're trying to draw that comparison with to today. Many believe the accusations against Jesus and disciples. Yet, as you probably know, every one of these charges were false, with no scripture to back that up. Just, hey, we just know it was false because just trust us. But it's really funny because the stuff they were doing back here is all backed up by scripture. The stuff back here is all fits what the witnesses in their own words just before in the previous article described as occults. So how is this false? The accusations were false. Well, what were the accusations? Overturning the entire earth, defaming the temple, preaching sedition. I mean, why was Jesus executed? Because the Jews at the time thought that Jesus was going to replace the government that was currently there. They thought he was going to become a king. And obviously the Romans didn't like that because that's a challenge to their authority. The Jews didn't like that because it challenged their orthodoxy and their positions. Like, I'm failing to see where the falsehood here is. Like, the charges fit what he was doing. The witnesses seem to want to frame it that, because Jesus was doing this on God's decree, on God's demand, that it somehow doesn't apply. Somehow the things he was doing were not the things he was doing. Yeah. So anyway, where did I leave off at? Charges were false. The fact that people said these things did not make them true. Well, that's really funny. I wonder if the fact that the witnesses say this here, that these charges were false, does not make them true. That sword cuts both ways there. Here we're just taking the witnesses' interpretation of the events of these scriptures, and they aren't even backing this up with any scriptures because they're just take our word for it. We're the true religion. Obviously, God's talking through us, so just accept it. What about today? Would it be accurate for Jehovah's Witnesses a cult? Blah, blah, blah. Are Jehovah's Witnesses a cult? Okay, finally, let's get into the answer, please. Enough framing. Let's talk about facts. What's the evidence show? A government official in the city of St. Petersburg, Russia, explained Jehovah's Witnesses were presented to us as some kind of underground sect sitting in the darkness and slaughtering children and killing themselves. Okay, so immediately we're talking about what some guy said. What this guy said, is it actually very close or very far from the truth? Presented to us as some underground sect. Jehovah's Witnesses have many stories about going underground when their preaching work or their existence is banned in a country, and Russia's one of them. They have what's called the bunker video now. It's like an infamous what if type video of in the future when witnesses think in the near the future all worldwide governments are going to turn against all religion, and especially them because they have the true religion. So the government's going to really go after the witnesses, and they have literally a bunker video with witnesses hiding in a bunker, praying, supporting each other, going underground. It's a basement. They're literally underground, and they frame themselves as having to do that because the governments are coming after them. So, and this is not fantasy. They've done this many times before. They have gone underground. They have gone into hiding. They have operated illegally under, and I'm not saying we should ban religion. They should have necessarily followed it, but they did do this. Like, they fit this description. Whether right or wrong doesn't really matter. They fit the description of being an underground sect in Russia. And so this is an accurate statement. In the darkness. Yeah, sure. Okay. That's you're in a dark bunker underground. Yeah, it's gonna be dark. Slaughtering children, killing themselves. Well, witnesses don't suicide unless unless they're shunned, and that's really extreme circumstances. Slaughtering children, no, not outright. But if you look at it though, with the blood, the blood prohibition, it's not slaughtering children, but they are killing children. They're allowing their children to die in certain cases. So not too far off from the truth here. It's actually fairly close to the truth. However, the people of Russia have recently become better acquainted with the truer nature of the witnesses, and this is according to the witnesses themselves. So take that with a grain of salt. And yeah, so this guy goes on to say, now I see normal smiling people, even better than many people I know. Okay, fine. There's one guy's testimony. So this doesn't really give us any evidence one way or the other. They could have cherry picked this out of 100 testimonies, all negative, and this guy just happened to be the positive one. Okay. Jehovah's Witnesses do not hold ritualistic meetings. What's a ritualistic meeting? When I was a witness kid, we had 3 meetings a week. Our meetings were Tuesday night, Thursday night, and Saturday night. Every meeting was the same. Every meeting had a schedule. It had a song at the beginning. It had parts. It was structured. It had, it had a song and a prayer at the beginning, structured parts, a middle song, structured parts, and then an end song and an end prayer. They have every single one of their meetings followed a structure, followed a ritual. They exercise ritual baptism, the memorial, the yearly. It's kind of like mass at a Catholic church, but it's only held once a year. The memorial is a ritual. They have emblems and they have wine and they have unleavened bread. They have a strict structure of song and prayer and talk and prayer and passing the emblems. And if you happen to be one of the anointed, you would actually drink or eat the emblems. And this happens every year. It's a ritual. It's like witnesses do have ritualistic meetings, and they still do. It's the rituals change, but every week it's the same. Nor do they worship cloaked in secrecy unless they're banned, right? If they're banned in a country, they will worship cloaked in secrecy. Non-witness author Julia Mitchell Corbett says, another just cherry pick quote, when they meet, usually more than once a week in Kingdom Halls, most of their time is spent in Bible study and discussion in a strictly structured ritualistic fashion. That's my words, by the way. Their meeting places are clearly marked with a sign, unless they're in a banned country, in which case they have their meetings at private homes with no signage. Their meetings are open, unless it's in a restricted country, in which case nobody new is invited unless they can really, really, really trust that person. Unannounced guests are more than welcome, unless, of course, they're in a restricted country, in which case unannounced guests are usually met with, are you with the government? Are you here to arrest us? Yeah. So anyway, this whole framing here, it's just a straight up lie. It's really just splitting hairs, and it's just a straight up lie with that. And so far, we're already 2 paragraphs in, and we're just talking about hearsay. It's more framing, more. This person said this. Oh, this Russian person's official said this. Oh, hey, look. There's the same quote. Corbett. The witnesses have earned the reputation of being honest, courteous, and industrious. Many who are not witnesses readily acknowledge that there is nothing freakish or bizarre about Jehovah's Witnesses. Many who are not witnesses readily acknowledge that there is nothing freakish or bizarre about Jehovah's Witnesses, and many more who do acknowledge it. It's like a 9 out of 10 doctors say, like, well, what's that 1 out of 10 saying? Like, what? Why aren't you talking about what that person thinks? Their conduct does not clash with what is accepted as normal social behavior. It absolutely does. Shunning, blood transfusions. We already talked about it 3, 4, 5 times now. The New Encyclopedia Britannica accurately states that the witnesses insist upon a high moral code in personal conduct. So New Encyclopedia Britannica says that the witnesses insist upon a high moral code in personal conduct. Really curious. I'm going to take a look here. You guys are going to see my search here, but witnesses are kind of known to do this here. So you notice here how this sentence, if this sentence was honestly structured here, there would be an ellipses right here, starting this quote right here. It would go quote ... insist upon a high moral code, personal conduct, because this really feels to me that they have taken half of one sentence and they're attaching it to another half a sentence that they wrote to reframe it into something not what was originally said. I have not looked this up before, but I'm going to bet that this sentence is basically something along the lines of, the witnesses say and insists upon, like they describe themselves as, and they insist upon a high moral code and personal conduct. I got a feeling this sentence here is the witnesses describing themselves, but they're framing it as somebody else describing it as them. And I would love to look this up. I'm going to take probably about 30 seconds to try to find it. But this article is 30 years old, so it'd be really probably difficult to figure out where this is actually. Let's take a look here. I'll pop this over here and I'll share the tab. Okay, so first one here, I just did New Encyclopedia Britannica, and then I got the quote in here. JW.org, JW.org, Jehovah'sWitnesses.com. It's a forum. That's a third-party forum. Translation of moral code in Estonian. So we're getting to the end of page 1 of Google, so we're probably losing hope here pretty rapidly. So I have currently no way to verify this quote. I'm going to probably take a note. I'm going to take a look at it because I got a feeling that they are doing some shenanigans here. But we'll see. And there's actually no page 2. It's all on page 1. So this looks like a direct quote from the article. This is also a direct quote from the article. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Anyway, okay, let's get back to the article here. Last paragraph, and I'll check on chat and see what people are saying. Okay, the director of news and special projects for the television station in the United States wrote to Jehovah's Witnesses. So another anecdote, another random person they just chose to say this is what this person's saying. So their defense so far in this entire subheading, this entire section here of what the evidence shows. Here's the next article or the next subheading. So the entire section of what the evidence shows is testimony from hand-selected individuals. Anyway, let's finish this part up. This person said on 60 Minutes, he said, if more people live the way your faith does, the nation wouldn't be in the shape it is in now. I am one newsman who knows that your organization is founded on love and a strong faith in the Creator. I want you to know that not all news people are biased. So this actually is kind of telling here. I want you to know that not all news people are biased. So this guy's basically saying, if this quote is true and accurate, this guy's basically saying, I know what everyone else is saying, but I think differently. Which tells me right here, this quote is cherry-picked. I would love to see this quote up against 10 others. This is a 1 out of 10 dentist who is disagreeing. I would love to see other quotes from people in this time talking about the witnesses. Okay, well, let's take a moment. Let's do a little palate cleanser here. How's everybody doing in chat? We got 21 viewers. That's great. You're Victoria. Welcome. Nice to see you. And yeah, tell me, Sumami, my brain is full of fuck. I think is the way that the saying goes. It's like you read this and you're like, oh God, my brain, it's melting. I know. I kind of get a weird like high off of this kind of stuff because having been born in the witnesses and having grown up in their organization, it's like seeing the sun. Like, you ever seen those videos of like chimpanzees, like test chimpanzees? They were released out of the lab and they like see the sky for the first time, or they walk on grass for the first time. Like these are like chimpanzees that are like 25 fucking years old and they see nature, the sky for the first time in their lives. It kind of feels like that, where you get out from under this cult umbrella, you get out of the forest and you see the sky for the first time, and you see all these things for the first time. And when you look back and you start to like thoroughly and rationally and objectively and freely analyze these types of things, it kind of brings back those memories of that first like waking up moment where you're like, wow, I'm seeing things now. It's like, Christians would call it being reborn. Going back and re-experiencing that. And when I like go through and I, analyze this and criticize it, it brings back those memories. It's almost like a high at times. It's probably one of the reasons why it drives me forward, why I do this. Another reason too is I'm thoroughly interested in exactly what duped me for so long when I was in, and what duped my parents into joining, and what continues to dupe many of my old friends and some of my old family. Okay, so anyway, yeah, Tsunami, thanks for that. Victoria is here. I mentioned that. Alma says, Eric, I think the only useful thing they have is they teach you to speak in public, not so much for women, but most of guys has that training. And yeah, I do agree with that. That's probably one of the only positive things I pulled out of that. They witnesses, I think they basically partially have dismantled it at this point, but the witnesses have or had a very robust public speaking program because they witnesses want you to go out there and preach. And they want you to be effective at preaching because that's how they get their converts and that's how they get their money. So the people that are in, they want them to be fully trained. They want them to be able to go out and be persuasive and to speak extemporaneously. And they have a very robust program for doing that. And yeah, and definitely the men in the congregation, excuse me, get the best. They get the best of that program because they have the actual speaking parts, the actual teaching parts, whereas the women in the congregation are relegated to you're going to give examples. You're going to like do little plays and dramas on here's how you talk to somebody at the door. Oh, here's how you do a return visit. They don't do direct teaching. They will go up there and like basically play out a scenario with a partner usually, and they'll play out a situation, play out a conversation. It's all pre-scripted, but they don't ever turn to the audience and say, and thus you can see from this example, scripture, here's how you do it. Like there's no direct interaction with the congregation by the sisters in that program. It is just them playing out these scenarios. It's only the men that do the teaching. And that's very important because man has the penis and therefore the man teaches. It's just logic. So yeah, it's pretty messed up. It's a very misogynistic, twisted, gender specific, gender promoting religion, or sex promoting religion. It's really just your genitals that determine your place in the congregation. It's just gross. Xavier Park, the Cuban Buddhist, welcome. Oh, hey, Hunter Biden's laptops. Nice to see you, man. Good to see you here. Sydney Raptor. Do Mormons and JWs have women door knockers? That's I don't know if you intended that to be double entendre, but yeah, they do. So with the witnesses, all members are witnesses. If you can talk, you are immediately trained and put out into the field. Like we're talking about like kids. So yeah, and the women will go out and also go knocking door to door. The teaching restriction is only teaching fellow witnesses. The women are allowed to go out and teach non-witnesses the Bible and also teach them out of the publications. And then it gets really, really weird at this point. If a male is present, if a man is present at one of these calls or at like a Bible study that a woman is conducting, and the man is not participating, but he's like, I think if he's like either a baptized publisher or an unbaptized publisher, the woman has to wear a head covering. They have a weird scripture in the Bible that if a woman is teaching in the presence of a man, in order to show respect for the headship arrangement, she should be wearing a head covering. And I've heard some bizarre, funny stories come out of this where if a head covering is not available, but the woman still needs to teach, she will like literally take a magazine or something and like just put it on her head. And hey, that's your head covering. Your whole like I heard a story of a sister literally holding a magazine over her head because she had no like head covering available and she had to do teaching with a man present. But yeah, so anyway, long story short, yes, they do go out and they go door to door. So do children. Obviously, adults are there, or they better be there. But yeah, so they do that. Cool. Philly 3000, welcome. Good to see you here. I think we said hi yesterday in another stream. So yeah, it's great to see you. Glad you made it here. Yeah, Alma head covering. That's actually that'd be an interesting topic to go into because I don't think I've seen any of the other exJW channels talk about that. I don't think I've ever seen Lloyd Evans talk about it or Owen Morgan or like Jake or some of the other smaller channels. That'd be an interesting thing to go into because there's some bizarre procedure around that. It's the same as some of the other bizarre procedures they have when it comes to like the memorial. It's very procedural, and they did follow like to the letter, verse by verse, and they're figuring out what exactly the procedure is, because if you don't do it right, then you're not doing it right, and therefore you're false religion if you aren't doing it right, and can't have that because then God won't bless you. And yeah, it is ridiculous. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous here. Yeah, hairless women. Uh, I don't think there's any. Women can't shave their heads as witnesses unless probably like cancer treatment or whatever. But yeah, I think witness women have to keep hair, and like you can't, like if your hair is too short, like they'll counsel you on that. You can't look too boyish; you have to look feminine. Whole nother thing. I remember years ago there was a convention part. It was a very intense convention part about the importance of masculinity and femininity, and how males should be masculine and the women, the females should be feminine. And I just remember just thinking to myself, like, wow, that speaker is saying masculinity and femininity so many times. It was almost like turning into a tongue twister, because he had to constantly refer to these concepts in order to tell you what you should be. Yeah. All right, well, let's keep on going here. So anyway, we just went through a bunch of anecdotes from random folks, and one of which we know is cherry picked. So that's what the evidence shows, according to them. Let's keep on going. A well-known religion. It is fair to say that Jehovah's are is it fair to say that Jehovah's Witnesses are a small fringe religious group? Let's actually put that to the test. So, what is small and what is fringe? Let's actually pop over here back to Google, and let's look at Jehovah Witness growth rate, growth history, I guess. AI is generating it. Can the AI be trusted? I don't know. 1870, Charles Hayes Russell started the movement. I don't know if this is something that will appear in a Google search. I might have to like dive back into like one of the older yearbooks from that decade to see exactly how many witnesses were being reported. There might be some information here. Congregations. This is all part of the history. Doctrinal development. Oh, this is pretty cool, actually. Hopefully you guys can read this fairly well. These are actually the schisms that branched off of the witnesses. So the witnesses aren't, they aren't this one unified group. There's been several branches that have popped off from them. 1909, 1916, all these things. But anyway, it looks like we have 4 main groups nowadays. Jehovah's Witnesses Watchtower Society, that's the main one. That's got the 8 million or so members. Free Bible Students, Associated Bible Students, and the Layman's Home Missionary Movement. Yeah, that'll pick up. That's a really strong name. That's the first thing you do, is you figure out your branding when you want to start something new. It took me probably 2 weeks to come up with well, maybe not, that's an exaggeration. Maybe 3 days to come up with the name Skeptics and Scoundrels. And that was after a lot of like thinking. I went through a bunch of different names, thinking about how does it roll off the tongue? Does it give me the kind of the presence that I want online? You got to brand yourself. And Layman's Home Missionary Movement, the LHMM, I don't think that's going to stick. You don't have that that attention grabbing power. Jehovah's Witnesses rebranded themselves to Jehovah's Witnesses in 1935. So definitely something that kind of raised our eyebrow at, like Jehovah's Witnesses, which I heard Owen on his stream the other day talking about how, like, if you wanted to be grammatically proper when you're talking about Jehovah's Witnesses, you call them one of Jehovah's Witnesses, kind of like I am one of Trevor's friends, or I am one of Beth's grandchildren. So the proper grammar would say I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses, but then that kind of like legitimizes the existence of Jehovah. It kind of like, it's built in. It's like almost like a loaded name. If you say it correctly, you're like admitting that Jehovah's real. which is kind of a clever thing they did. But anyway, there's nothing wrong with just saying, no, you're a Jehovah's Witness. You are a this, because we're not going to dignify that with, we're not going to dignify that assumption. Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, Scum and Scum is a great name. Just the acronym's a little iffy. That's why I get the ampersand. The ampersand's important. And yeah, I don't know. It's just ampersand's important, definitely. But hey, my abbreviation is no worse than Social Security. So if you're a United States citizen. I love when Peter Griffin started the Church of the Fawns. Yeah. I loved how it's been a long time since I saw that episode, but Fawns would appear to him out of nowhere and fade away after a conversation. It was pretty good. Okay. Anyway, so I was trying to figure out how many witnesses were around in the late 90s, or early 90s rather. Doctrine, blah blah blah, timeline. Here's their old. This is their old headquarters in Brooklyn. They sold this years ago. I actually toured this building. I was actually up here on this left building here. I don't know if you can see my cursor very well. On this left building here, I was up on that roof at sunset. That was a kind of a neat thing to see. And this is really the only reason why the witnesses are still around to today. They would have been obliterated by child sex abuse payouts and lack of donations years ago if it wasn't for all the Brooklyn real estate that they recently sold and made who knows how many hundreds of millions, billions of dollars off of. They sold all these buildings and they built cheaper buildings up in upstate New York where it's a lot cheaper to operate. So it breathed some life into their organization, but it's not going to last forever. Like it just delayed the inevitable. Okay, so that's the end of the article. I'm just going to do a search here. Population, members, millions. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at this later on. But there's 8 million or so witnesses today. They tend to only gain, I think it's something like, I'm just going to guess. I think it's back in the 90s. I think it was maybe 3 to 5 million witnesses back in the 90s. I lost the stream or the screen share. Yeah, it's about 3 to 5 million witnesses back in the 90s. Probably around 4, I would think. So are they a small fringe religious group? 4 million people out of literally 2 billion, maybe back then 1.5 billion Christians. Yeah, that's pretty fringe. If I do a calculator here, I'll be generous with, screw it. I'm just going to give them the full numbers. I'll give them today's numbers. 8 million people. Okay, divided by back then's Christian numbers. Let's say 1.5 billion. 1.5 billion. Witnesses were 0.5% of all Christians back in the 90s, using today's numbers, today's witness numbers and the Christian numbers from back then. So I fudged the numbers heavily in their direction, and they're at 0.5%. I would call that fringe. In a sense, Jehovah's Witnesses are few in number compared to some religions. In a sense, like how about literally? They are few in number compared to some religions. Like they're one of the smallest religions in the world, especially back then. The Mormons, right now, the Mormons have 17 million members. Like I think the main branch of the Mormon religion has 17 million members, and they're about as old as the Witnesses are. The Mormons have grown twice as fast as the Witnesses have. And they're a false religion according to them, but Jehovah seems to be blessing them twice as much. Oh, that's right. It's false religion, and Satan's enhancing false religion in a way that attracts more people. Only the true believers go after the right religion, and that's why the Witnesses are so small. But they're growing fast, so that's Jehovah's blessing. But the Mormons are growing faster, but that's not Jehovah's blessing. That's Satan's influence. That's the depravity of the world working into that. So that's just science. Okay. However, recall what Jesus said: narrow is the gate and cramped the road leading off into life, and few are the ones finding it. So again, they're saying, well, we're growing in other articles, they say we grow really fast, we're blessed. But here they're saying, well, we don't grow that fast because Jesus said we're not supposed to grow fast because few are the people that find this gate and go through it. Stephanie Helms, welcome. Good to see you. Was Ray Franz, Crisis of Conscience, part of your deconversion? No, it was not. I only learned about him a couple years after I deconverted, because you're not going to hear his name uttered at all by anyone who's in, because he's an apostate. So yeah, he was basically just erased from history when he left. And I only learned about him a few years after I deconverted. I do have his book, but I've never opened it. Yeah, I have his book right there. Let me grab it for you. And I spilled my drink. Very professional here. Let's get into the scoundrels. So this is Ray Franz's book, Crisis of Conscience. My dad has read this. Hopefully the exposure doesn't get all weird. But yeah, so this is Raymond Franz. He was a member of the governing body up until the mid-70s. And he had disagreements with doctrine with the other governing body members. And they finally said, enough is enough. You aren't promoting unity in our organization. And they kicked him out. And that's not something that's happened again until just a year ago when they kicked out Tony Morris. So anyway, yeah, I bought the book. My dad read it. It's a very thick book. I have a bad habit of buying books and never reading them. So it probably will be one of the books that I will read eventually. But I have a few books ahead of it that I want to look at. But my dad read this. He liked it. I think there's other witness channels that have done like full reviews of this book. I think Lloyd Evans did one. And anyway, but he didn't actually deconvert out of Christianity. He basically just said, these Christians are doing it wrong. And he went off and did it his own way. So you're going to have to, when you read the book, you're basically reading it from the perspective of a Christian pointing at another religion and saying this religion is doing it wrong, which is what every other Christian does. So I'm not saying that necessarily diminishes what he has to say, but that's what you're going to be getting yourself into if you read the book. Yeah, Prague adding some context there as usual. Crisis of Conscience presents a story of a struggle to prevent the erosion of a God-given freedom of conscience at the ensuing dilemma of choosing between loyalty to God and loyalty to one's religion. Yeah. Cool. All right. I think we're all caught up. Yeah, he just dropped the JW doctrine. That's basically what he did. Cool. All right. Hey, we broke 30 viewers. Welcome everybody who's joined us. We're just trash talking the witnesses, and then I'm going to open up the room here and pretty soon. We're almost done with this review of this article. And then probably what I'll do is at the end of this, I'm going to run a poll to see if people liked this kind of crawl through one of the articles and my commentary on it. Other witness channels, they will usually crawl through, like the witnesses have really switched over from doing written material like this to doing more video production. They got super big boners for video production. They have like studios now and expensive equipment. They have a little Pixar studio, and they're making like children's programs in Pixar style to indoctrinate their kids. And that's what most witnesses are doing or ex-witnesses are doing today when they do their criticisms. And there's plenty to do there. But we are talking about their cult status and their explanations of cults. That's why we're in this article right here. But anyway, I'll run a poll later on, see what people think about this and get some feedback. And then, we'll make more content and kind of gear content more towards what's interesting and what's away from what's not. All right. So well-known religion, we kind of went over that. Witnesses are far from being a small fringe cult. In the spring of 1993, more than 11 million people attended Christ's memorial of his death. This is misleading. So I mentioned the memorial a little earlier. That's their most, according to them, their most important meeting of the year. That is the meeting where you commemorate the death of Jesus. It's held on the spring, the full moon in the spring. It's Nisan 14. It's they go by the Jewish lunar calendar, determining what date to hold it every year, but it's Nisan 14. It is essentially the full moon in spring. It's very close to Easter, but Easter is always on a Sunday. So it's around Easter, but not quite on Easter. Sometimes it might be on Easter, but it depends on when the full moon is. That's their biggest meeting of the year. That's the meeting they're told to, hey, bring everyone you can, bring anyone who's even loosely interested in the organization or a religion, just get them there because they love, you know, talking about how many members that or people they got to the memorial. So 11 million people attending the memorial is not 11 million Jehovah's Witnesses. That's 11 people. That's 11 million people who attended. Back then, we're talking about probably 3 to 5 million people, which is my guesstimate. Next stream, I'll probably have some harder numbers. 8 million today. 30 years ago, you're probably at 3, 4, 5 million. So in reality, they're at a fraction of this number, probably as low as 25%, but they are presenting this number as if this is representative of the witnesses as a whole. It is not. The witnesses are actually 25% of this population. So very misleading here. But more important than their numbers are their moral character and exemplary behavior, which has brought them worldwide commendation until the child sex abuse scandals broke in the late 2000s with the Catholic Church, and then eventually spilled over into the witnesses, and was found out that the witnesses have the same exact problems, and probably even worse because they don't go to the police. Yeah, so we can go into all that later on. But even back then, there was still scandals around the witnesses. Like they had their issues. There was some CSA stuff that came out about it. They had scandals around. Can't remember exactly. There were scandals around unevenly applying standards to different congregations. Like, for instance, in one country, you were required to get a card to basically register for a draft or register for conscription, because a lot of countries have like mandatory military service. And in one country, they'll tell the witnesses there, don't get that card because you're conforming to the government about war and blah, blah, blah. Don't get that card. Gets a lot of witnesses in trouble. And then in another country, they will tell them the opposite. Like, it's okay to get this documentation because it'll avoid problems. And they've unevenly applied these standards across the board, and basically resulting in great harm to witnesses in one country while getting witnesses off the hook in another. And yeah, so exemplary behavior, moral character, we see their true colors now. Back then, not so much, because we didn't have the internet and it was a lot easier to hide these issues. Yeah, so undoubtedly it's been a factor in countries that have given them official recognition as a known bona fide religion. Can a country give you recognition as a known bona fide religion and you still be a cult? Like, is that possible? Is it now countries, governments determine what's a cult and what's not? This is irrelevant to the question of whether they're a cult or not. They up to this point, and it's not going to get any better, obviously, at this point. They have not given us a clear definition. They have not given us any hard evidence. They have not set any type of standard or metric by which to measure them. All their evidence was hearsay and cherry-picked quotes and false dichotomies, and now, outright lies. And it's just, yeah, this whole thing's falling apart really quick. And this was a Watchtower article from this is their flagship publication for decades now, and this is their doctrine. This is the source of it, and it's not doing so well. Outstanding is the recent ruling by the European Court of Human Rights. Outstanding is a recent ruling by the European Court of Human Rights, period. What's outstanding? The witnesses? It declared that the witnesses should enjoy freedom of thought. It declared that witnesses should enjoy freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and that they have the right to speak about their faith and teach it to others. But then the UN said that human rights is selecting your religion without coercion, but that's bad. But it's okay if the European Court of Human Rights says something that's agreeable with them, then that's good. So it really comes down to what they're saying and whether they accept it or not. But this doesn't at all help their case here. Like, yeah. Okay, so let's wrap this up. This would hardly be the case if Jehovah's Witnesses were known to use deceptive and unethical techniques. Well, okay, here's the thing. All right. This would hardly be the case if Jehovah's Witnesses were known to use deceptive and unethical techniques to recruit members, or if they use manipulative methods to control the minds of their followers. If an organization was using deceptive and unethical techniques and they were using manipulative methods to control their followers in an age before the internet, is it not at least a little possible they hid all this from external authorities? They hid all this from people who report on this. Maybe they suppress people who report it. They threaten people with losing their families, losing their social circles if they talk about this. Isn't it possible that you could perhaps pull the wool over authorities? Isn't that what cults do, is pull the wool over the eyes of authorities until they can't anymore? Oh, I'm so sorry. What happened there? Okay, well, I hope that wasn't for too long there. Wasn't showing my screen. What happened there? I was showing it, then I wasn't showing it. Okay, well, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, thanks for the heads up. I want to be free to be coerced. Yeah, you have a right to be coerced, Al. I'll grant you that right. The government of skeptics and scoundrels hereby says that you have the right to be coerced. That is a right you have. Okay, anyway, the rest of this is just more chest puffing. Multitudes around the world are well acquainted with Joe's witnesses. Of the millions of non-witnesses who are studying the Bible, which those are the millions that are, inflating those memorial numbers. That's what they're talking about right here. They're all asked. Okay, so of the millions of non-witnesses who are studying the Bible and the witnesses who have studied with them at one time or another, we ask, were there any attempts to brainwash you? If brainwashing is effective, do you think the person will know that they're brainwashed? If a person is caught up in a cult, do you think they know they're caught up in a cult? Like, yeah, like if an organization is really good at manipulating its people, will those people realize they're being manipulated? And it's really deceptive the way that they frame this, because they're basically saying, like, they're essentially saying, we pulled the wool over everyone's eyes. We're not a cult, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Hey, wow, I got a bunch of new people in. Maybe is it a little mini raid? Well, that'd be kind of nice. I Killed Earl. Welcome. Hooligan. Hey, man, good to see you. Niddy's here. And I think I said I Killed Earl. Yeah. So, hey, great. Good to have you guys here. We're just wrapping up here. Then I'm going to open up the room where I'll talk a little bit. If any Christians are in the chat, feel free to call in and we'll have a conversation. But if not, I'll open the room to everybody and we'll just we'll end the night there. Okay, so absorbed in humanity. I think we're going to start getting into more back patting and self-promotion, which I'll hopefully spare you that. So absorbed in humanity. Cult members often isolate themselves from family, friends, and even society in general. Witnesses do this. We talked about this already. Witnesses do this. They will shun those who don't believe. Even family members, like let's say you have a normal family, you have a witness family, or I'm sorry, you have a normal family, not witnesses, and one person in that family becomes a Jehovah's Witness. They will be actively discouraged from chumming around too much with their family members. Oh, your brother who's not a witness is having a birthday party? Don't go to that. Oh, family Christmas party? Don't go to that. Oh, they're having even just like a get together one night. Does that overlap with one of our meetings? You need to prioritize that meeting. It's better you prioritize that meeting than going to your cousin's graduation party or your parents' anniversary party. Once you're a witness, they immediately start isolating you. They immediately start keeping you from making friends at school, talking to anybody who is critical or in like an apostate state. Anybody who's critical about the organization, you can't talk about it. They do this. This is exactly what they do. Is that the case for Jehovah's Witnesses? Yes, it absolutely is. But they're going to say no, of course. So we don't worry about that. And they do not live in communes. This goes back to my anecdote from last week where my workmate Joe was basically like, I grew up in a real cult, when I told him that I felt like I grew up in a cult. And you don't have to have a commune to be a cult. Like the Branch Davidians we talked about at the beginning of the stream. If you remove the cult compound, or you just remove the compound, are they still a cult? Did the building contribute anything to their cult status? No. The building was incidental. The building was a way that they isolated themselves. They physically isolated themselves from society. The government took note of it, and then that disaster occurred. But the point is, the building's not needed. You can still isolate people without fences and without walls. So the commune, it's just a red herring. Doesn't matter. Jehovah's Witnesses recognize that it is their spiritual responsibility to love and care for their families until they're 18, in which case you can just kick them out if they're not a believer. If they're an apostate, you can just straight up just ignore them forever, never coming back from that. Yeah, and it's getting redundant at this point, but they live and work with people of all races and religions. They do, only as far as they will be polite and look for opportunities to witness to people. I was told so many times, witness to your friends at school, at work. After I graduated and I was working like a job, I was told to take every opportunity to preach to people. I worked at Starbucks in my early 20s. When I was 20 and 21, I worked 2 years at Starbucks, and I witnessed to multiple coworkers. And that kind of gave that kind of put this like this weird vibe of like Eric's the Christian preachy guy at Starbucks. And it didn't help me at all. Like, it did not help my position in society. It didn't help my self-esteem about myself. I was always kind of like the black sheep with people around me. And yeah, it doesn't help at all. When disasters strike, they're quick to respond with relief supplies and other humanitarian assistance. That's a whole can of worms we can go into, but there's a whole racket in their relief efforts, and we can go more into that later on. Educational programs, they preach in 200 lands. This is just chest puffing. It's all pointless to the cult question. Admittedly, the teaching of Jehovah's Witnesses are different from those provided by the churches. They're unorthodox. So they're admitting they're fitting the criteria already. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Jehovah is the Almighty God and that his son is Jesus, not part of a triune deity. Again, unorthodox. And again, there's your central figure that you have exclusive, unbending devotion to. So yeah, lots of more. They warn people of the imminent destruction of this corrupt system of things. And this is where the witnesses get really super bizarre, because they are a doomsday religion. They anticipate and they hope for, and they are practically begging for this world to be brought to a fiery end. One of the governing body member that was removed, Tony Morris, he said some very inflammatory comments about non-believers, basically like smoke, poof. And he actually brought out a match, and he actually lit the match and poof, blew it out. And he's like, this is what enemies of Jehovah, non-witnesses, what's going to happen to them. They're going to vanish like smoke. And they're basically sitting around and just like jerking off to the idea that one day billions of people are going to die and only they're going to be left over. That is their primary driving force behind their whole organization. And yeah. Oh, and that was something I also neglected to mention last week too. Part of a cult is an inflated idea of the group's importance. Like if you look at some political cults will very much, like right now, MAGA, the political cult that is MAGA, think that we're going to make America great again. We are going to restore America back to its pristine state that it once enjoyed. We are critical. We are the last hope for this country. The country is falling apart. We are the organization that's going to set it right. Like this overinflated sense of importance. The witnesses absolutely fit that, because the witnesses think that they are the one and only true organization, God's organization on earth. The preaching work is their commission, and that God is using them to warn the world of impending destruction. They think that the work that they're doing is the most important work to be ever done on the planet. They have a colossally inflated sense of self. And that's what a cult does. Like the Heaven's Gate, when they all committed suicide, when the Hale-Bopp comet came by, They thought they were chosen by aliens and they were to go join their alien brethren behind the comet when it passed by. The Branch Davidians, when they met their fiery deaths, they also thought that they were executing God's will on the planet. It's the same. Like what the witnesses are doing now is the same as what these other groups did. And history could have easily have turned the witnesses into another, Branch Davidians or into another Heaven's Gate. And here's the thing, like not to be alarmist or anything, but it could still happen. The witnesses, the organization, the witnesses will drop little comments. The governing body will drop comments in their literature and in their videos saying that, hey, one day you may get instruction from us that you may not understand, that you may not agree with, but it's imperative that you do it without question. It may confuse you. It may seem counterintuitive. It may seem like the wrong thing to do, but you need to listen to us when we tell you what to do, and you need to be sure that you do it. And they drop little seeds like this. They drop these little enforcements of you need to do what we say despite your common sense, despite your logic, despite what normal people would do. You need to follow us. And I'm not saying that's necessarily next step's going to be one day, okay, drink this Kool-Aid. I'm not saying that's going to be the case. It's a non-zero chance that'll be the case, but I think it's very, very remote. But you could potentially see something like that occur because witnesses think that government's going to turn against them one day. They think that their message is going to turn from one of warning to one of judgment. And they have this, like I said, overinflated sense of self and purpose, and they think that God is on their side. They're dropping those little hints of you should probably you need to listen to us no matter what. And this could potentially spell disaster one day. The stage is set, and how they handle it going forward will determine whether people get hurt or not, or rather, more people get hurt or not, because people are getting hurt now because of it. Anyway, I got some new folks in the chat. P-Town's here. Welcome, P-Town. What's P-Town saying? Jesus saves and transforms. These cults will have their judgment just like the scoundrels. Well, I await that judgment. Your God can take that up with me one day. P-Town, theist lines are open, actually. If you want to join in and have a chat, I'd be willing to talk to you a bit. It's up to you, though. Carrie Ann, welcome. Welcome. I think teaching people how to better themselves is important. Teaching people how to segregate from people is religion. Yeah. I think John Stewart said it best. John Stewart said, oops, I muted myself. John Stewart said, religion brings comfort to a world torn apart by religion. Yeah. Yes, I'm P-Town. If there's a copycat, let me know. Yeah, I really hope not. We only need one of you. We can talk about whatever you want. I'm I'm running some street epistemology tonight, so feel free to just call in and give me a religious claim, and we'll start to analyze it. Promise I'll stay civil. I've interacted with you before, and I've seen you on other channels, so I got a pretty decent idea of what you're like. But it's fine. We can talk, have a civil conversation. It's up to you. Vesper, welcome. Narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, the dark triad of personality traits. Yeah, I think I wouldn't call the witnesses psychopathic. I mean, statistically speaking, I think 1 out of every 100 people are psychopaths. So 8 million witnesses, you're looking at 800,000. That's 1 out of 10. 80,000 psychopaths within the witness ranks. So, but that's not anything. That's not their fault. That's basically just statistics. Cool. Okay. Jimmy Thompson, are we taking atheist callers? Yeah, we're going to open up the room here really, really soon. I know I keep on saying it, and I keep on getting sidetracked. So we'll work through the rest of this article because I don't want to have to do a third installment of this, and we'll open up the room. So anyway, they're basically listing out, here's how we're different. We preach imminent destruction. Earthly paradise is coming in pretty soon. They don't venerate the cross. Again, that's another unorthodox thing. All their literature, you'll see Jesus dying on a torture stake, and not a cross, because apparently wood was expensive back then. They don't celebrate Christmas. That's so true. They don't. They used to a long time ago. They don't do it now. They don't believe in a soul. They don't believe the soul is mortal and there is no hellfire. That's also true. So anyway, they're just listing off a bunch of unorthodox stuff. Once again, fitting the criteria they said before on their fact. They abstain in politics and participation in warfare. So like this is probably one of the biggest things right here. They abstain in politics. I feel like my ineptitude when it comes to political expression is heavily influenced by this, in that I didn't start talking politics maybe till a couple years ago. I'm in my 40s and I just started seriously talking about politics privately. I am nowhere near the point of saying I am comfortable with talking about it in public. And so like it's just like I feel so underdeveloped with it, and I have a tendency to not want to speak about a subject that I don't have very good knowledge of or I'm not very like familiar with. And so, because I'm just feel like, yeah, I'm getting myself in trouble. I'm gonna say something stupid. I just want to avoid all those things. Um, so yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why I'm so underdeveloped when it comes to political discourse. And whether I change that or not, or whether I actually start talking about politics on my channel or not, I'm not sure. I'll probably touch upon it, and I'm just gonna let it. Whatever happens, happens. If I just naturally develop into it, I'm gonna do that. So we'll see. Have you ever asked yourself why the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses are so different? Because they're a cult. Okay, Manchester, Massachusetts newspaper. Don't care. It's gonna be more back padding. Who is their leader? Well, they're gonna say Jesus is their leader, or Jehovah is their leader. Jehovah's Encyclopedia of Religion aptly states that Jehovah's Witnesses, a clergy class, and distinctive titles are prohibited. That's kind of bullshit. You have ministerial servants, you have elders, you have the district overseer, you have the regional overseer, you have the governing body of governing body helpers, you have the overseers of different departments. You have titles. It's not bishop or cardinal or pope, but you have titles. So please get that out of here. How do the kids say that? Miss me with that. Miss me with that shit. Okay. Yeah, P-Town. Yeah, if you want to talk, connect in. You're welcome to connect in. We'll have a conversation. They follow Jesus Christ as their leader, and I mentioned before, yeah, they're Jesus Christ is their leader. But hey, guess who interprets Jesus Christ's commands for you? It's the governing body. So, yeah. All right, we're getting near the end, folks. 2 more paragraphs. It is clear that Jehovah's Witnesses are far from being a cult, as Jesus was from being a glutton and a drunkard. You have not established that case at all. This article has done nothing to get them away from their own self-described definitions of cult, or rather what they say other people say a cult is. In fact, this article brought them closer to those definitions rather than further away. And they didn't take the opportunity to say, we believe a cult is this, and here's why we don't fit it. Yeah, so they completely did the opposite of what they wanted to do, or at minimum was completely ineffectual. Admittedly, not everyone who was influenced by the false reports about Jesus and his disciples fell into the trap of slandering him. So they're basically trying to start framing it now as, if you believe we're a cult, then you're falling into a trap. Some may have simply been misinformed. If you have questions about Jehovah's Witnesses and their beliefs, why not get to know them better? Let us into your house so we can start brainwashing you. The doors of their kingdom halls are wide open to all who seek truth. Unless you're seeking truth in a way that they don't approve of, in which case they'll kick you out. And then, yeah, the rest of this is just a scripture. So anyway, that's the article. That's the Jehovah's Witnesses' defense, their own words, defense against the cult accusations of that. Okay, so I don't see P-Town connecting at all. We'll give him a chance to, but hey, I'm just going to open the room to everybody. Feel free to connect in with the Discord link at the top, or not Discord. I'm sorry, the StreamYard link at the top. I'll actually just see if I can invite, copy. Bam. So yeah, feel free to hop in. We'll have a little chat. We've already been talking now for, wow, hour 45. That went by fast. Oof. Okay. Well, I'm going to give everybody a chance to get in here. Feel free to pop in and say hi. And I'm going to take a moment here. I'm going to order a pizza before the place closes. Okay. So P-Town, I think, has family obligations. So yeah, if you can break away P-Town, feel free to pop in. If not, that's fine too. You can always pop in next week. Mr. Niddy,
Yo,
how you doing?
I'm good. Can't complain.
It's great.
Just hanging around listening to J-ho-ho-hos.
J-ho-ho-hos. I never heard that one before. That's actually pretty good.
How have you not? What?
I've never heard of it. J-dubs. That's like J-dubs. That's the.
I always call them the J-ho-ho-hos.
I live up in Washington, in Seattle. Like University of Washington is UW. The JWs are J-dubs. I don't know. J-ho-ho-hos. I'll use it. I like it. It's fine.
It's fun.
Yeah. I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you entertain for a few minutes while I order this pizza?
Oh yeah, totally.
You had a good stream earlier today. By the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I popped in there and I saw that for a bit.
I was pissed.
Yeah.
And you didn't. No one likes me when I'm angry, but actually they do. But yeah, that was that. I started off with a history lesson. And I follow a channel. It's called World War II. I suggest everyone watch it. It's good for you. History is good for you, even though it might hurt. And then talked about deconstruction and how I hate that word so much. Now I hate it. Now I didn't at first, but now I'm just like, blah.
I did a whole video on deconstruction versus deconversion. Yeah, and just the way, like that video that you showed too. What was her name? Alyssa
Childers and Tim Barnett with
and just the way
Shauna Mickey.
Yeah, the way she was like I prefer people not use the word deconstruct. I prefer them reform. And I was like, she's basically said, I prefer people examine their religion not with the risk of them losing their religion, but with the guarantee that they will maintain their religion and become stronger and more convinced in it. Like that's essentially what she said there. And yeah, it's just not very. I don't know. It's like imagine telling somebody, oh hey, examine this, but come to this conclusion. Like that.
Right? Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah. Like how is that possibly an honest examination?
I got flustered when they said we teach our students. We want our students to be inoculated from other, criticisms and the challenges to Christianity. It's like, wait a minute, you're giving them a flu shot. You're saying that you're giving them a Christian flu shot ahead of time to reject any other evidence that comes their way, no matter how disconfirming or convincing it might seem.
Yeah,
you've been inoculated. You're gonna fight that knowledge virus.
Yeah, like because inoculation, a vaccine will protect you, or rather make you immune to something going forward. You can imagine that, hey, if you had like nefarious scientists, they could potentially make a some type of vaccine or inoculation that protects you from something beneficial,
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're doing. It's like a reverse vaccine. It's something that makes you immune to something you need or is positive for you. And that's really
rabies
what it felt
is a
like
vaccine to water.
That's so true. Yeah. That is so true.
You'll die, but I mean, whatever.
That is a scary disease.
Yeah. But no, I tried to point out that it's just a disingenuous way to think about, what they like to say is we want to teach our kids how to think, but not what to think. But that's still coming at a cost and a line. Like, are you happy if you had Muslim neighbors and they just looked at you and said, oh, we've inoculated our kids to the Christian worldview? It's like,
yeah.
Tell me now I can't convert you. I'm out.
All you got to do is just swap out the religion or the God with something else, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, this is terrible. They're trying to inoculate our kids from Christianity. Yeah. Like, there's very little self-awareness or very little self-reflection when they come up with these ideas. When they think they have a really good point, they don't sit there and say, how can this be used against me? They just roll with it. And
yeah,
it's good for us.
Here's the thing.
Good content generation for us.
Yeah.
All right, my pizza's ordered finally. Okay.
All right, you're
Sorry.
good.
Yeah.
All right, I'll entertain. Go get your food.
No, it's already been ordered. I just ordered it. So yeah, we're good.
Damn it. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, you know, I think I should start a running tally of like an Excel spreadsheet of how many new, mind you, apologetics books get written and by who, and see like in the next year how many apologists who got the top most amount of books published, right? That were new or reissues of something old, like, you know, put it in the intellectual microwave and popped it out again. And see who published the most nothing burgers, and then do a stream about it, and then take a guess at how much money they made on regurgitating something old.
I heard that Gary Habermas is releasing part 1 of his magnum opus here on the 15th.
Yeah, I had a channel gag and a live chat gag about that, where I would often post in the comments or in the chat, what's coming first? Habermas's magnum opus or Jesus?
Or Jesus. Is it going to be the magnum opus or Armageddon? And I got a feeling. So I guess he's got like a co-writer with that magnum opus. I forgot the guy's name. It's a younger guy. Probably someone.
Well, there's a good question in the chat, but go on.
Yeah, probably somebody to carry it on in case he doesn't make it all the way to the end of publishing these books, kind of like George R. Martin's going to do with the Song of Ice and Fire series. Like he's not releasing those books in his lifetime. But yeah, he's got like a co-writer that's like doing, I think, a lot of the heavy lifting. Like I think maybe Habermas like doing the research and the generally outlining things, and then he's got a writer who's actually like fleshing it out into like an actual book.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. Oz, hey man, good to see you.
There's Jimmy Thompson's question. Let's put that up.
Pop up there, Jimmy Thompson. How far back is it? Oh, here we go. It's right there. Do you guys think it's okay to not allow your kids to go to church if they have been invited by a friend?
Let's frame that a different way. Would you prohibit your kids from church if they were invited by a friend? What do you think?
I think the first question I would ask is what church? Because that makes a pretty big difference in what I can expect my kid to be exposed to. If it's something like Scientology, like, hell no, you're not going. If it's something more innocuous,
Mother God Church.
Yeah, like if it's like something like a Universalist, like kind of just hey, let's just all get together and just feel good about things. That might be better. But I don't know. That's a really good question, because at some point, because as a parent, it is up to you to like. Let's actually reframe this as something else. Do you guys think it's okay to not allow your kids to go to radar or movies if they've been invited by a friend? Like, yeah, it depends on how old my kid is. It depends on well, the radar or movie. You know, you have the idea what's going on there. If it's a Matrix, maybe I'll let my kid go. But if it's like Logan, I'm not going to let them go. So it's like. It really just comes down to kind of just the context of the situation and what I can expect my kid to be in store for. And has my child, and there's also the questions too, there is like, has my child reached an age where I think that they can like critically think and
sure,
at least attempt to investigate what's being told to them, or will they just kind of uncritically accept it? Like, is my kid still in that phase of I'm just going to trust whatever an adult tells me because that's what human kids are programmed to do? Yeah, it's a good question. I think it really depends on a bunch of different factors. So it might be yes, might be no.
Yeah, I mean, I would do pretty much the same thing. Like you go into a highly charismatic, jump around like a wild fish on land and scream and go oogly boogly babba shama ba. No.
Yeah.
Nope. And then if like you said, if it's something that's not really a big deal, even they've been invited to like a non-preaching thing, sure. Like you want to go to the cookout at the non-denom, I mean, okay, like that's whatever.
Yeah. Okay, we actually have
no,
gentlemen.
Don't do that.
Don't do what?
Are you considering putting Wesley on?
I don't know who Wesley is.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't
makes
do
me
that.
Makes me want to do it even more.
No.
Oh
no. He's
All
banned from my channel.
Really?
Indefinitely.
Okay. Well,
yes.
I'll tell you what. I want to give him a fair chance.
No.
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 I'm going to give him a fair chance. But I will.
Please, no. There is a very good reason, and if you let him on, you're going to find out real fast.
Is he going to get my channel banned? Is it that bad?
It's possible.
Oh no. Wesley, are you going to behave in chat? Please tell me you're going to behave, and I'll let you in. Niddy, you've done nothing to not convince, or you've done nothing to convince me to not let him in. Now I want to let him in even more. I am simply going to speak what Jesus told all of you. Okay, so Wesley, let's make an agreement, Wesley. I'm going to run some street epistemology on you. So I'm going to ask you questions. I want to see what you have to say. I expect questions to be answered. And you can do a little bit of elaboration afterwards, but I want some answers. And if there's any misbehaving, I'll kick you out. Okay, but I want to give you a chance. Niddy, I want to pop you out just for a little bit. Just hang.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I'll get popcorn.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for the warning, Niddy. I'll try not to let it kind of poison the well in my head. So I'll bring Wesley in. Hello, Wesley. How are you doing?
Good evening. Hi. Yeah, my name is Wesley Lawrence Curry II. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good to meet you. My name is Eric. I don't release my last name first and probably the only, because I'm never gonna have kids. So I'm the first and the only.
Sure.
Cool. All right. So I'm taking it you're a Christian and you have a few things to say about epistemology.
Meaning the end times. Do we agree that epistemology is sort of the study of the last days and how it is in the Bible and how it is in reality?
No, epistemology, at least the definition that I run under, is the study of knowledge. That's epistemology.
Okay.
Are you talking about eschatology, the study of kind of what happens with the soul, and I think that's kind of more end times?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
mixed.
Okay. So just tell you what, I'll give you about 30 seconds. Tell me, don't go into preaching. Just tell me who you are, what you believe, and give me a claim about your belief that you kind of want to analyze and defend.
Sure. My name is Wesley Lawrence Curry II. I believe that Jesus returned saying, "It is time." The devil emulated his voice and said, "Sad and delicious." I believe the Holy Spirit of Jesus appeared to everyone on earth 7 times, saying, "Tell the vision, tell the vision, tell the vision, tell the vision you shall not need the mark, tell the vision and you shall heal without money, no time to talk, Allah, and you want war." The date that Jesus said it is time was January 4th, 2003. The date that Jesus told you tell the vision was August 25th in the year 2005. I believe Satan was also loosened for moments, very short moments, and attacked you. And I don't want you to discern wrongly and be fooled by him, for many people will believe he is a god. And Satan told you sad and delicious. And Satan told not only you, but everybody, "I will turn and toss you violently like a ball," during a moment of paralyzation.
Okay. So that
Satan told you don't tell the vision, and it was not God that said don't tell the vision.
All right. So that was a little more than 30 seconds. So these
simply that.
Okay, simply that. So these quotes, are these direct quotes? Or are you just kind of paraphrasing and putting a spin on them, or were these actually like said by these entities?
That's the precise words. I'm trying not to add or change or take away.
That's the precise words. Okay. Can you give me one of these quotes verbatim, precise words?
Sure. You mean the ones from the devil or the ones from Jesus, God?
Let's do the ones. Well, I'll leave it up to you, devil or Jesus, either one.
I prefer the Jesus ones.
All right, we'll do the Jesus one. So give me an exact quote from Jesus.
"Tell the vision and you shall not need the mark."
Tell the vision, you shall not need the mark. Is that from the Bible?
Tell the vision and you shall not need the mark.
Tell the vision and you shall not
need
the mark.
The mark being the mark of the beast, the mark of the 10, the Omni branded barcode.
Okay. How do you know Jesus said this?
I'm anointed. When I saw my soul, it was filthy dead ashes with a pearl of light in the belly, and the ashes were all wet with a clear and clean oil. Now, I in those days claimed that Jesus.
Are you being figurative, or is this being literal?
No, I'm telling you that Jesus removed the scales of my judgment from my eyes and showed me what my soul looked like to him.
Okay.
It was
all right. So hold on. I mean, so you're anointed. Okay. Jesus changed you and you're anointed. Does that kind of wrap it up? Okay. Or sums up there?
That's how I know.
All right. So you're anointed, and that's what Jesus told you? Or did he tell you and other people?
He didn't tell me those things.
Okay. Well, the question I asked you was, how do you know Jesus said this? And you said, I'm anointed.
Yep. That's how. So that's the only way I can.
Okay. But then you just told me that that's not how Jesus told you. How did Jesus tell you these things?
I just know them. Simple as can be.
So are these words actually in the Bible?
Look.
Hold on. Yes or no question.
Sure.
Wesley,
sure.
Yes or no question. They are in the Bible. Okay.
In the way that Jesus said, I shall pour of my spirit on all flesh. Your young men shall dream dreams. Your young men shall see visions. Jesus
I recognize that scripture.
Said, tell the vision. And a child nearby lifted their hands and said, it is he.
Okay.
This happened to everybody on earth.
Okay. So this quote is from the Bible. You are anointed, and that's how you know these words are true?
Are you saying they're not true?
I asked you a question first. Please answer my question first. This is how you know these questions are true.
I'm not able to answer that question for you.
You can't answer a yes or no question? I mean, it's the answers are yes, no, I don't know. And I'm perfectly fine with accepting an I don't know.
I'll just say I don't know then.
Okay, so you don't know that these words were actually said by Jesus.
He did not say them to me. I believe he said them to you.
You don't know, you don't think he said them to, I'm sorry.
He did not tell the vision to me. I heard him say, it is time. I heard the devil emulate him and say, sad and delicious. But I did not hear Jesus say, tell the vision. I believe he did that to you.
So we're not actually, so you said sad and delicious.
He didn't have
these aren't actually quotes in the Bible you're talking about. These are some type of personal revelation you've had.
He didn't have to tell me to tell the vision. I did it willingly and every day for 8 years in Chicago and managed to get personally more than 10,000 people.
Let's try that. Let's try that one more time. Okay. So the sad and delicious is not found in the Bible, correct?
Sad and delicious is the words of Satan.
Sad and delicious is not found. Okay. So that's words of Satan. So that's not in the Bible, right? So
if you believed in the Bible, you would agree with what I say.
No, I'm not either agreeing or disagreeing with you. I'm trying to straighten out exactly what your claims are here.
Sure.
So we're a little all over the place. So we need to. So
it is in the little book that John was told to not write on paper. It is in the little scroll that is covered in Lamentations and Woe in the book of Ezekiel. That is where it is in the Bible.
So it wasn't written down, but it's still in the Bible?
John was given a little book and he was told to eat it. And it would be as sweet as honey.
Oh, okay. Let's
belly.
All right, hold on. How do you know John was given a little book and told to eat it?
Because I am that little book.
You are a book.
I am that little book.
What's your definition of book?
Anointed with the dove of Jesus Christ over my head.
Okay. So, all right. This has gone all over the place here. So let's
lay it on your table.
Let's focus on a single claim here. You said that you're a book. What does that mean? And I very succinctly give me some just very basic, like explain it to me like I'm 5.
It means when I say the words that Jesus wants me to say, the angels that you deny exist, say them also, but none of your words do they say.
Okay. How do you know that these inspirations, how do you know that these inspirations is coming from Jesus?
Are you embarrassed to say that you saw Jesus? For he shall be embarrassed of you.
That's a loaded question there because I never saw Jesus.
Then
so these are these inspirations from Jesus?
Look, everything you own
Wes.
Everything
Wes,
you use
I need you to answer my
the vision shall be removed.
All right, Wes, I just muted you. You need to answer my question or else we're going to end this conversation. I'm honestly trying to understand exactly what you're telling me here, but you are going all over the place here, and I want to give you a fair chance. So I'm going to unmute you.
Sure.
Okay. Please tell me what it means that you are a book and whether or not Jesus inspired you with these words.
Jesus, do you want me to answer that? It means what I speak.
Is Jesus?
It means. I'm going to tell you. It means what I speak is the Bible of Jesus Christ.
So what you, Wes, speak is the Bible of Jesus Christ. Did you just hear Jesus tell you to say that just now?
No.
Because I heard you audibly ask Jesus, and then you responded. So how did Jesus somehow communicate with you just now to give me that message?
He did not say anything to me just now.
So you spoke to Jesus, but you didn't hear anything back.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. But you have claimed that Jesus has inspired you before to speak these words.
Yes. He gave me the dream of the Valley of Vision.
Was it a literal dream?
Yes, a valley at night with.
Let's focus on this bit here. Let's focus on
green.
Wes, let's focus on this little bit here about the dream. Okay. So you fell asleep and it was like a literal dream. You fell asleep, you had a dream, and you interpreted this dream as Jesus communicating with you.
I am the shame of the Lord's house.
That's a yes or no question.
I'm
Wes.
going to answer your question.
I'm sorry, Wes. I'm going to demand a yes or a no first, and then I'll let you elaborate a little bit. But I need a yes or no first. No priming.
I don't know. I hope.
You said I don't know.
Or I ask the question again, please. I do want to.
Okay. You said that this was given to you in a dream, so I'm asking. You fell asleep, yes?
Yes.
Or no? Okay. You had a dream. You had it. Wes, stay with me. You fell asleep. You said yes. You had a dream, yes or no?
Yes, from Jesus.
And in this dream, this dream came from Jesus. In this dream, Jesus told you things, and now you're here telling us those things, right?
Jesus showed me the vision of a valley with straight trees on the left and curved trees on the right, a river in the middle under a full moon, a square hole where no one is dead, but people are cut into pieces, and behind it 2 creatures and a foot cut off on circular saws made of rusted gold and silver.
All right, Wes
does not bleed. It wears a white sock and a black.
Wes, so you're I understand this is what you believe, but you're describing a lot of gibberish here. So here's my question. Okay, here's kind of where I want to go with this. Do people have dreams that are just gibberish and nonsense?
I'm not going to imagine what people have in that.
Have you had any other dreams? Have you had any other dreams?
I've had silly dreams that had no meaning, that were probably something to do with my daily activities, just my inner thoughts as I slept.
Okay, that's great. So you've experienced both kinds of dreams. You've experienced both.
Fantastic,
All right, so you've experienced both kind of. Hold on, Wes. So by your own admission here, you told me you've experienced dreams from Jesus, and you've experienced not dreams from Jesus, right?
I saw that dream of the foot cut off that didn't bleed one time.
All right.
I spent 8 years.
Let's not worry about the detail of the dreams. We're talking about the dreams themselves, not necessarily the content of the dreams.
That's the dream Jesus told you to tell, and if you don't,
all right. So you have a dream. So you've experienced dreams from Jesus. And you've experienced not dreams from Jesus, right? Just the gibberish dreams that are just generated by your brain, just from your day-to-day activities. Your brain is just kind of just processing memories. And
I'm very familiar with those kinds of dreams.
Okay, and you've experienced them, yes?
I've had them all my life, with fantastical kinds of things. But there was
all right. So my question here is then, you've experienced both
kinds of dreams, and
you've experienced dreams from Jesus and not dreams from Jesus. So my question is,
I had one dream from Jesus.
Okay, you have one dream from Jesus. Okay, that's fine. That's fine
one
too.
Of the palm trees with the orange red.
That's fine too. My question is, how do you tell the difference? How do you tell the difference between a dream from Jesus, which by your admission you've experienced one, and all the rest of your dreams that weren't from Jesus? How did you determine the difference?
I had no doubt in my mind whatsoever that it's from Jesus.
You had no doubt in your mind.
None. I
can a person
on the streets of Chicago?
Can a person have no doubt in their mind about something and be wrong?
I went to churches telling this vision from Jesus.
Wes, that was Wes.
He didn't have to tell me to tell
Wes, I'm gonna keep us on track here because I honestly want to understand where you're coming from.
Sure.
You said that your dream from Jesus was verified because you have confidence that it is.
This vision is
can a person have confidence in something like that and be mistaken?
Look,
yes or no?
You're going to be taken down off your high chair, kid. You know it's from Jesus, and you want to deny it, and you want to stop. That's fine.
Please,
you're not going to last long.
Wes, that's a yes or no question. Can somebody be highly or even absolutely confident about something and yet be wrong about it?
That's an imaginative question.
That's not an imaginative question. I am highly confident that I exist. I could be wrong about that. I'm highly confident that I exist as a human and I'm here in Washington. I could be wrong about that. I could be a brain in a jar.
Said, television, would you knock gently twice in each of their mouths on the
Wes, let's get back to my question here. Can a person be highly confident about something and be wrong about it? Wes, one more chance.
Feel that?
No, I don't feel anything. Yeah, well, I feel a little hunger. I'm waiting for my pizza to get here.
And you're going to be marked with an Omni mark to get 32K, and you're going to fall with a disease on your skin that.
Tell you what, Wes. Let's change gears here.
If you keep going the way you're going,
Wes, let's change gears here. Let's change gears here. So, all right.
I don't want that to happen to you, but that's the direction.
All right. Okay, so that's exactly what I was about to ask. Are you concerned about my future, my immortal soul?
Very.
Are you very concerned about me getting right with Jesus?
I do not want to see you go to hell. I do not want you to be marked with the mark of the beast.
Okay. Do you think the way that you're presenting the message to me and the way you're dodging questions, do you think that at all has any positive effect on moving me towards your position?
I put it plainly on your table. What you do with it is what you choose.
I contest that it's plain because I've heard a lot of gibberish. And I'm trying to cut through it. And when I do try to cut through it and ask you a yes or no question, you don't want to answer certain questions.
Yeah, but
so my question
in the pit with half a brain looking into his own mind for answers.
I got two halves of a brain. Thank you very much.
Had every day for 20 years.
So, Wes, do you think that this is at all helping anyone watching this right now?
If you don't tell the vision, you're going to lose everything you have.
Do you think Jesus? Do you think Jesus wants you to convert me?
Jesus is the only one that can convert you. He will decide when you tell the vision, and if you don't, it is because he decided to separate you and cast you off.
Okay. So do you think that the way that you present the message will have an effect on whether I'm saved or not?
In the scripture, it is written that I am bruised corn, that I am a brute.
So that's a yes or no question. Wes, that's a yes or no question, and you're quoting scripture.
I'm bruised corn. I'm feeble. I'm not really concerned about my presentation skills. Whether you take this knowledge and use it is up to you, not up to me.
Well, okay. I can't argue against that. Okay. Well, thank you, Wes. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you giving your words. And maybe I encourage you to go back and kind of listen to how we conversed.
If you look in Isaiah 22,
no, Wes, no more preaching, Wes. Gonna mute you. No more preaching. I'm encouraging you to go back through and listen to our conversation. All right. And instead of worrying about you transmitting your message to us, try to put yourself in our shoes. Try to say, how do I sound like I'm coming off to these people when I'm asked a question and I don't want to answer it? Or I start to talk about different things.
Your shoe is going to get cut off.
Wes.
Your shoe is
I'm trying to give you some honest advice here, okay? Please. All right. So, Wes, thank you very much for stopping by. Just going to end it right there. Let's see here. Thank you, Wes. Bye. You weren't wrong, Niddy. That was interesting.
Everyone needs their West cherry pop.
I've never seen it before. That was interesting. And Wes, for the record, I would love to have another conversation in the future But what I was trying to get to, my point of when I was trying to wrap that up, I wasn't trying to lecture you, Wes. I was trying to tell you that if you really care about transmitting a message to us and saving our souls, the way you do it is really important. The way you interact with people is really important. And I understand you're probably passionate about this. I understand you think this is important, but if you want to convince us, you do need to change your approach. And if I'm asking some simple yes or no questions, please just answer them. Anyway, so thanks for stopping by, Wes. Appreciate it. Okay, get him out of there. Hey, Alma's here.
That number is the same backwards. I get it. Okay.
I still have my shoes though.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. I wanted to ask what that meant, but yeah, that was an experience.
Yeah. We have a guy like that in Spanish. Last time, yeah, exactly like that. And the guy comes in and starts to say that, oh, you know what? I do not follow a church. I follow the Gaia theory, something like that. And we ask, okay, what is the theory? Oh, it's about science. Okay, what science? Everything can be science. And one of the guys asks, a carrot can be science? And he says, yeah, a carrot is science. So now we have the scientific carrot.
That's
oh boy.
Yeah.
It's something else today, eh?
Yeah. And also he said that, well, you cannot understand me because I'm an artist. So
what does that have to do with anything?
I don't know.
I am an artiste. I'm an artiste for the Lord. I am painting. I'm not preaching. I am painting his message to you. Yeah,
here we are.
I think, man, that was interesting.
Yeah.
I think you've had the longest coherent attempt to talk.
I was really trying. I was really trying. I think what was really off.
You did a great job with him because it was the longest it has been done that. Like,
you know what? We should have an atheist community skeptic Wesley challenge. No, that takes advantage of him. I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
that's bad. That's bad. Niddy, you're bad. And you just like start a timer and you see
how long can you last. Okay.
Yeah, it's probably like a muscle. Like you ever did like kind of those they're not like squats, but it's you go into a sitting position, but you put your back against a wall, but there's no chair underneath you. So you put your back flat against a wall, you bend your legs at 90 degrees, and you just hold that position. And your muscles start straining because you're holding up your weight against that wall with your knees, and like a burn starts to form because you're working out your muscles so much. It's kind of one of those things where you can't do it very well at first, like any exercise, but after a while you can start like working out that pain, and you start becoming more resilient against it. And after a while you can basically do that type of half squat for as long as you want.
And this is why you do call-in shows.
That's why you do call-in shows. Yeah.
You are carved from stone with both of your feet.
I couldn't I was trying to write down some of what he was saying, and like he was going a little bit too fast. Like, and that's fine. He's not supposed to slow down just so I can write things down. But it was so random and bizarre. Like it wasn't really like cohesive sentences or thoughts being put together. It was just I saw this image and I saw this image and I saw this image and this image represents you and I saw this other thing. And it's like, what? And that's what I was trying to get at the end there was like, Wes, if you really care that I understand this message, you're going to have to present it vastly differently. You need to slow down. You need to answer my questions. When I ask you what this thing represents, you need to tell me what it is in clear terms,
right?
Not just go into more dream preaching, because you're not helping anybody with that. Oh yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was on someone else's stream the other day, and I have found this Scottish woman. I think she's called Emma Stark or something. And she runs a prophetic ministry. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And she does the same thing, but at least like you can kind of follow where it's going, but it's literally just like biblical details, platitudes that are vague enough for a person to go, yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, but then they like go off the deep end a little bit and like make these grandiose claims for like the person's life. Like one of them was, you know, this woman that they were prophesying to. They're like, "Oh, you've been through some hard times with the Lord, but you held on. You've never given up." It's like, when? What hard time?
You know,
right?
I think they are
Be
trying
specific.
to pull one of those, what is it, cold readings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because
but
they're
then
trying to make sure that, oh, this person is probably an atheist because they have a hard time with the church or something happened to them, and that's why they don't believe anymore.
Yeah, but then they take it a next step, and they told her she was going to be like this prolific, internationally known author that will empower kids and grown people with the spirit of her words in a book. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then they did this thing with a young man right after that. And she said that he got the Joshua spirit, right? And she goes on this tangent and blah, blah, blah. Then she names like David's mighty men. And I'm like, so God's given this young man the mantle of genocide and running a protection racket? Like, this doesn't sound good. And then at the very end, she's like, "You've been equipped with a sword by Jesus." I was like, well, I wasn't wrong.
Yeah, it's very like grandiose imagery, very warlike. You know, it's
yeah.
For being the Prince of Peace, Jesus here brings a lot of swords where he goes. You know, really think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Isn't it a bit contradictory, right? Because in one gospel is like his all love and peace, and the other gospel says I'm going to put dad versus the children. And
I don't bring peace. I bring a sword.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pit family member against family member. Essentially, yeah.
These are metaphors. It's metaphors.
Oh yeah.
Unless you're a Bible literalist, and then it's not.
He is a door.
I love Bible literalists because you can ask them questions like, well, you know, when Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden, and God stationed those angels to guard the entrance, and there was a spinning sword there. Like, wait a minute, Adam and Eve are the only two humans on the planet. Swords hadn't been invented yet. Did God invent the sword?
Yes.
How would they know? Well, when they ate the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it was also knowledge too. So they just knew swords, chariots, all the things.
The very first thing Adam did when he ate that tree or ate that fruit is like, I gotta make a sword.
And also,
he's like, well,
another thing that it bothers them a lot. Like when they say, when you ask, okay, who was the first to kill anything?
Yeah.
And they always respond, oh, it was Cain, right? But no, because the Bible says that he made skin, clothes for Adam and Eve.
Yep.
Where that the skin came from? You have to kill an animal.
Yeah, you have to kill an animal. I think even Cain and Abel, like they wore at least wearing animal skins. Like, were they naked? Like,
well, Abel is the one who did an animal offering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Directly animal offering. Of course, you know, killing animals isn't killing; they're animals, right? Yeah. At least what the Christians would say.
God wants it, it's fine.
Yeah, like,
but no,
like Prince of Peace loves swords, loving God, loves blood, loves smoked flesh, loves
peace for me, but not for thee.
When they say God is pro-life, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I will cause their wombs to miscarry.
Yeah.
Whoops. But yeah, that JW stuff, you know, I hadn't heard a lot of that control and manipulation stuff, since it's been a long time since I watched Lloyd Evans.
Yeah.
But it's reminiscent of stuff that I went through, but obviously not to that degree.
Yeah, every cult's a little bit different. Every recovery is gonna be a little bit different. Yeah. I haven't watched Lloyd Evans in a while either. Maybe not for like a year and a half. The exJW content that I keep up on, Altworldly, Jake Vaughn. I like him a lot. And then there's exJW Caleb, who's interesting character. But I like listening to his stuff too. And then, Owen is also, the largest one out there.
Right. Yeah.
Owen focuses a lot on politics now.
Yeah.
He's like, his Nutter Butter streams are really entertaining to watch, and that's really fun. Yeah. I'm actually considering, well, I'm going to probably talk to Jimmy about this, but I know Owen co-hosts on the line. It'd be fun to have like a exJW team up on the line, like me and Owen.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah.
Might be a fun like episode to have, like on Skep Talk or something. Or if I do sub for Matt for the hang up, I'll probably request Owen to be my partner for that. That'd be really fun. So
agree.
Cool. So we're at 2.5 hours. If there's any Christians or theists in the chat, we can do one more call. If not, we'll wrap it up here in a few minutes. But yeah, I think I've watched. Man, my entire day. I'm on PTO right now, so I have nothing really to do during the day other than clean the house and all that. So I watched like a ton of streams today. It was Niddy stream. I watched Jefferson and Spatchcocks. I watched The Line. Now I'm doing my own stream here. So my brain is like full for the day. I got pizza waiting in the other room too. So
that's something else, man.
But hey, you know what? I gotta thank Wes for that. We surged to 40 viewers when he was talking. So we bring it back in here and.
It's just that everybody joined it to see how long can you.
That was, I was like, when Niddy was like, no, don't do it. That's obviously gonna make me want to do it more because I'm gonna do the opposite. But I was doing my best not to have the well poison in my head. I was like, I want to.
You did great.
Oh, thanks. But no, I wanted to treat him fairly, and that was interesting. Like, I gotta admit, that was.
Oh, look, we have a theist on the chat. As Christ brings a sword.
Oh, Christ brings a sword. Atheism nonsense is an endless stream. Atheist nonsense is an endless stream.
Hello again, my friend.
Yeah, this stream's not endless. This stream's going to end here fairly soon. Yeah. But Christ brings a sword. If you want to connect in and have a short conversation, feel free to. The link's up pinned in the thing. Let's see here. I pinned something, or not pinned something, but I highlighted something earlier. Where did I do it? Hold on. Well, okay. Chrissy says SNS Dave is moving into leaving the line right. You might fill that slot. I have no idea. So nice. I just heard from another mod on the line that Dave's stepping back. Very likely it's health reasons. His ALS is getting bad. So. But anyway, I'm sure there's going to be an announcement officially somewhere pretty soon if there isn't one already. I took a quick peek during the stream when I was realizing kind of that's the case, but there was nothing on his Patreon page that I saw, and I didn't see anything on the Line Patreon page, but there might be an announcement somewhere that I overlooked. But yeah, I think it looks like Dave is stepping back. So no idea what's going to happen on that Thursday or Tuesday time slot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read his book, and that was... Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Oh, there was my previous pin. And yeah, Christ brings a sword. Just join the backstage. So Christ, I'll bring you here in a second. I'll bring you here I've only seen him in live stream chats. I'll bring you here in a second, Christ. Jimmy Thompson says, are you planning on making this a weekly thing? And he said 3 times. Yeah, I'm thinking this is my second. My goal is to do this once a week for the entire year at least. So I'm settling in Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So basically the time slot that this stream is in. I think it's worked out pretty well. Partially because Wednesday's a good time, middle of the week. And also it's at the end of the hang up. So when the hang up's ending, I want to like start my stream, hopefully maybe pick up some of the people that are leaving those streams and, pick up some audience that way. So that'd be kind of nice. So yeah, so expect this maybe every Wednesday 6:30 is probably when we'll settle in on, and we'll do it that way. Ryan Murphy says, "Don't start a JW text reading yet. I can hardly keep up with Joseph Smith and Blasphemous Bible." Yeah, Arnra's productions are really great. I really enjoy them. It's really nice because you have Tomer there, really like deep diving like definitions and kind of the histories of these texts, and but then you have everyone else there giving their readings and showing it the proper respect. So,
yep.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys in the back room. And sorry, that's very triggering for JWs to hear go in the back room, but
No,
that's when you're gonna get counseled by an elder.
Okay. Let's.
All right. Catch you guys back here in a bit. Christ brings a sword. Hello.
Hello. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year indeed. I hope we were going to have a better conversation than I had with Wes. Already you sound easier to communicate with. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I kind of chirped in with a little comment there that was kind of, trolling the atheists, because that's the kind of relationship we have, Christians and atheists,
I wouldn't say that way. No,
we troll one another.
Okay, yeah, a little bit of like harmless ribbing. Sure, I'm fine with that.
Go.
All right, cool. I think I've seen you kind of pop into certain chats here and there and just kind of like drop.
Well, I heard you mention you were listening to The Line, and I don't watch that show very often, but when I've seen it, I think that's with Matt Dillahunty. Is that The Line?
That is The Line, yes.
Yeah,
Matt Dillahunty and Jimmy Snow and others.
Yeah, so I heard that and it kind of perked my ears up.
Okay, I gotcha. So Christ brings a sword. I'm guessing you're a Christian?
Indeed.
Oh, okay, cool. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? What denomination you are? How you?
I believe the Bible, and what we're seeing going on in the world today is in the Bible, and we're looking at judgment and destruction, and glory for some, and utter destruction for most people.
Okay. So judgment, destruction, glory for some, death for others.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And if you had to, I don't want to pin you to like a denomination or anything, but like kind of what most closely describes your belief around
this? I
this?
believe in prophecy, which most Christian denominations don't. So put me in the group that believes in future prophecy of the Bible, like Book of Revelation.
Because like Jehovah's Witnesses, my old religion, believe in prophecy. In fact, they believe in dual fulfillment of prophecies in the Bible. There was an initial fulfillment and a dual fulfillment to come later on. But witnesses are pretty fringe, so I don't want to like group.
They're actually pretty interesting. I agree with a lot of what the Jehovah's Witnesses believe in.
Okay,
I also believe that, of course, Jesus Christ is God. So that's not a Jehovah's Witness belief, right?
Yeah. So you basically Trinitarian position is what you're basically putting forward there.
I guess you could put me in that group. Yeah.
Okay. Because Jesus, God, the Holy Spirit, they're one, but they're also like, okay, so yeah, Trinity then.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And the witnesses are Unitarian. They think they're all three are distinct entities. And the Holy Spirit, under the witness theology, the Holy Spirit is not like a character. It's just a word given to God's active force. It's just a name for his power. Yeah. But it doesn't have like a will or personality or anything. It's essentially just an exertion of God's energy on everything else.
Well, I read a book recently by John and Morton Edgar. And as I'm reading it, I'm going, this is what the Jehovah's Witnesses believe. This is written in like 1912.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the pyramids and a lot of their other beliefs are not in alignment with what most Christians believe. But I found them to be very convincing myself.
So like the Egyptology, Egypt or pyramidology, because I know the witnesses, like Charles Hayes Russell, the founder of the Witnesses, was like kind of into that kind of stuff, like the pyramids.
I'm sure he was, because these guys studied it and they exposed all this insight, very beautiful insight. And I think the Jehovah's Witnesses picked up on it and ran with it. And I don't think the other religions really picked up on it like Jehovah's Witnesses do. But I do find a lot of wisdom in those books from the turn of the century that have been lost to history, and most churches don't pay attention to them.
Right.
So I kind of follow my own research, but I am a Christian at heart.
Okay, so you're Christian at heart. Follow your own research. I asked you once. I'll ask you one more time, and if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. But is there like a label? And I don't want to hold you to the label, but I just want to be like, do you have a label that most closely resembles your belief, but maybe not necessarily exactly? Like, what do you
I like the Baptists, the Anabaptists, the King James Bible, literal translation of the Bible, that it's like perfect and you won't find fault in it. That's the camp that I fall into, that the Bible is perfect.
The Bible is perfect. Okay. Yes. I'd like to focus in on that comment. So, okay, great. And like I said, I'm not going to like hold you to that label. It just gives me kind of an idea of where you're coming from. But,
cool.
Okay. So the Bible is perfect. I guess my first question is, what's your definition of perfect?
Mathematically perfect, literally perfect. It can have prophecy. It can be inspected in ways that we can't even imagine to give us new insights. There's people who put the original Hebrew in a spreadsheet, and they can see things when they they search every fifth letter or character. They find prophecies in there. It's pretty interesting stuff. So it's called the Bible code.
So, okay. So every fifth letter you can find a prophecy. Is that indicative that a God inspired this to you? Or is this just...
I think that God is perfect, and so he inspired the scripture written by the scribes, and they wrote down what they were told to write down, and they didn't really know everything that they were writing down. But God knew, and it was intended to be that way, so that in the future we would look back on it and be amazed at how could it be so perfect. And that's what we see. We see it as perfect.
Because this is reminiscent of the way I've heard some members of Islam describe the Quran. They say it's mathematically perfect, has prophecies in it. If you plug in certain numbers or you plug in certain mathematics, it comes out to fit these models and such. So I guess my question is, how would I be able to differentiate? Because I have like you on one hand saying the Bible's mathematically perfect, but I have like a Muslim on the other side saying, no, the Quran is mathematically perfect, and therefore the Quran is a reflection of the perfect God. How would I break this kind of stalemate in front of me? Like I'm just a neutral party looking at both these claims. How would I break the stalemate? Is there something like additional you can give me that perhaps the Muslim doesn't have?
If you want more than numerical perfection, then look at the Quran and what it says, and it allows lying. Okay. It allows you to lie, and that's not something that the Bible does.
Well, I guess it really comes down to a matter of interpretation, because like immediately from my brain, the scripture, don't cast your pearls before swine, that was interpreted by at least my old religion that, hey, you have permission to lie if the party you're talking to doesn't have the right to know the knowledge that you possess.
No, I don't agree. I think that it's if you know something that you don't want the other person to know about, you don't have to give it to them.
Right.
You can keep it a mystery from them. That's not the same thing as lying.
Couldn't a lie of omission though be considered a lie? Like if like a half truth?
I don't agree. No, I don't. I think that God can keep information away from us without lying.
Okay. So so lying is a disqualifying factor of the Quran.
Absolutely.
Why is lying a disqualifying factor?
Well,
like how does lying impede upon that perfection that you're...
God never lies.
God never lies. That's coming from God himself though, right? Like God is saying, well, the
scripture, the word of God.
Yeah, scripture, word of God. The scripture says God doesn't lie. Could God be lying about that?
Nope.
How do we know this?
If God is lying, then that's blasphemy, and then that means he's not good. And that means, what are we worshiping him for?
But can God blaspheme against himself?
Yeah, he could if he was lying.
God can blaspheme against himself.
If he were to lie, that would be a blaspheme. And you can't, God can't blaspheme against himself, because he says, I cannot lie, I will not lie, I cannot lie. So
yeah. But here's the thing, though. Like, this is kind of a thought experiment I like to present people sometimes, and I think Jimmy from Tux TV also likes using this. It's kind of like the trickster God thought experiment. So we have an idea, at least in general, Christians have an idea of what God is according to the Bible, the holy book of Christianity. Muslims have an idea of what Allah is according to their holy book, the Quran. And they both point to these books and say, this book describes our God. And they'll say things like we just said here, like God is perfect. God cannot lie. He cannot blaspheme against himself, and various reasons why. But how do we verify that those claims are true? Because isn't it possible that a God exists that doesn't care about blaspheming and doesn't care about lying, and in fact generated these books for whatever reasons? Maybe there's just a trickster God. They like tricking people, or it's like some type of test to see if people are like credulous or incredulous according to these claims. Isn't it possible that a God perhaps is okay with blasphemy, is okay with lying, but he wrote a holy book that says he didn't?
Well, a lot of people believe in a God that will lie and make them feel comfortable. You know,
Yeah.
They believe that what's wrong with a harmless lie? You know.
Yeah,
but
I agree. A lot of people believe that, but I'm asking about the possibility of this God existing.
But God does not believe in any kind of lie. So even a harmless lie is unacceptable to God.
But here's the thing, though. That's according to your holy book, right? Is like, because pretty much everything that you're going to tell me about your God comes from the holy book. Right?
Yeah, the definition of God is he's perfect. He does not lie.
Right.
He does not cheat, does not do those things.
So everything you tell me about this God is from the holy book that comes from this God. But if this God initially lied in creation of the holy book, then how can we verify any of these claims?
Well, if you're saying that there is a lie in the Bible, then you should be able to point to it.
Okay.
So show me a lie.
Show you a lie in the Bible.
Just one. I only want one. I don't want 10. I don't want 20. I don't want a list. I want one.
Okay. Let's narrow the definition of lie first. Is a lie a deliberate deception? Is it a false fact? Is it a mistake? Like,
I would say,
how would you say a lie is?
It's best described as a contradiction. So if you can find anything that contradicts itself in the Bible, that would be considered a lie.
Okay. The mustard seed is not the smallest seed?
That is a parable.
That is a parable.
So it's a what do you call it?
But Jesus called the mustard seed the. Oh, go ahead.
Well,
I'm sorry. Don't want to
that's okay. At one point, Jesus stopped speaking in straight talk and he started to speak in parable. The purpose of the parable is to deceive those who are not Christian, to deceive them, not to lie to them, but to deceive them, because they will read the mustard seed parable and try to figure it out and maybe find faults in it, and they won't learn anything from it. But the Christian is going to inspect it and try to say, well, what does it mean? And the more they think about it, the more questions come up, and it just feeds on itself, and they start to understand what it means to them. And there's many different interpretations of the mustard seed, what you're talking about. And I've heard this before, that the banana seed is much smaller than the mustard seed, but the mustard seed is what gives it the mustard tree, its size and its pungency.
But it was described as the smallest seed, though, when it's not.
I don't think they had bananas in the Middle East.
Did Jesus not know about bananas?
I don't think they had them in the Middle East.
Well, this is out of Jesus' mouth, though. Jesus is giving the story. So wouldn't Jesus have access to that knowledge?
Do you know that bananas existed then? I don't.
Well, there's other seeds.
Maybe they did.
Well, okay, let's say bananas didn't exist. There are other smaller seeds than the mustard seed, though.
Well, once again, I think that we're talking about a parable. We're not talking about something that's he's trying to give you an idea. And if you can come up with a smaller seed, of course, I can think of a poppy seed. I think that's pretty small. I don't know if a poppy seed is smaller, but
it says here a mustard seed is 1 to 2 millimeters in diameter.
Right, but look at the tree it produces. Look at the tree.
That's the production of the seed is irrelevant. We're talking about Jesus' statement that the seed is the smallest.
Well, if you're going to focus on just the smallest seed,
I'm focusing on the words he said. It's not necessarily the seed itself. I'm focusing on I'm focusing on an objective claim that Jesus made in the Bible.
So there are seeds that are smaller than a mustard seed. I agree with you.
Okay. So,
but I don't think it's a lie to talk about the smallest seed when he's talking about.
Okay.
He's regarding the smallest seed that, you know, that can produce something so huge. Sure. So it's how you interpret the smallest seed. I mean, you can say it's a lie, or I say it's a parable.
Well, here's the thing. So I asked you what a lie meant earlier, and you said it was a contradiction.
Correct.
So lie kind of has like motive built into it now. So I'm guessing when I asked what a lie was, you said it's something that contains a contradiction. We just pointed out that Jesus said something that's objectively false. It objectively contradicts what we know about the world. I'm not putting intent on to Jesus there, but according to the criteria of a contradiction, that's a lie.
If you want to interpret it that way, that is your choice.
I'm just going off of what
we can disagree because I don't agree with your interpretation. So I'm not. Well, no.
Well, hold on. I asked you what a lie meant. You said a contradiction, and I pointed out a contradiction. And now it's more towards. Now you're saying, okay, now it's more towards line and intent, and it's fine if you want to go back and revise your definition. That's fine. I'm not going to beat you up over it. But under your initial criteria of a lie is a contradiction in the Bible, we just identified one because we know objectively the mustard seed is not the smallest seed.
If you want to call it a lie, then you're welcome to call it a lie, but I call it a parable.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to maybe something bigger then.
But now you didn't get the whole meaning of the mustard seed parable because you're not interested in the true meaning of it. You're only interested in proving a lie.
Well, the context of this conversation is to talk about whether the Bible's perfect or not. And whether the Bible, by your criteria, contains no lies. That's my focus.
That's right. There's no lies. That's right. No lies, no contradictions, no falsehoods. It's perfect.
How would I guess let's drill a little bit deeper into the definitions because I want to go to another example in my mind. What's your definition of a contradiction?
If you could show that the Bible says one thing here and then something that's completely opposite and contradictory in another place there, that would be a contradiction. However, you have to take into account that the Bible is written over a period of 4,000 years. So each part of the Bible has a different dispensation. So there's going to be different rules that apply depending on what part of the Bible you're reading from. So there's a lot to consider when you're looking for contradictions, because you might think you found a contradiction, but what you did was you're picking from over here when it didn't apply, and you're applying it over here where it does apply.
All right. So can we also include in that a contradiction? The Bible makes a statement, but that statement contradicts something we objectively know about the world.
Yeah, you could call that a lie.
So that's kind of like that's kind of where I was going with the mustard seed thing, is because the mustard seed is not the smallest seed. There's many other smaller seeds, and even ones that would have been known at the time. And setting aside the fact that if Jesus is God and is all knowing, he should know about every single seed out there. But we'll set that all aside. Let's talk about the flood. Are you a literalist when it comes to the book of Genesis? Do you think the Adam and Eve actually existed? There actually was a flood where Noah built a boat and put animals on it, and it rained for 40 days, and the boat was aloft floating for a year until it finally found its resting place in Mount Ararat? Like, do you take all that literally? Do you think those are actually like real historical events?
Oh yeah, every word of it.
Every word of it. Okay. So you are aware that modern science like completely disagrees with the Adam and Eve story, right?
I know that modern science lies a lot.
Modern science lies a lot.
Yeah.
When are we still under the same context of lie, like contradicting known reality?
Because there's truth, right? There's things that are true, and then there's things that are obvious lies, and then there are things that are lies.
So what's one of the obvious lies of science?
Obviously, it's evolution.
It's obviously evolution.
Evolution is the big one because you call
This is good because this is kind of the direction I was wanting to take this, because we're talking about Adam and Eve. Why do you think evolution is a lie? The theory of evolution, why do you think that is a lie?
Well, the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Okay, how do we know that?
The Bible says.
Okay. So the Bible says the earth is 6,000 years old, and that's why evolution is a lie.
Correct.
Do you know what evidence science brings to the table to dispute that?
Can you tell me?
Sure. So first off, evolution doesn't really have anything to do with the age of the earth. Evolution requires an old earth.
It does.
But it doesn't.
Very much so.
It doesn't dictate.
It can't exist without billions of years.
Sure. So, for instance, setting aside all the geological evidence we have things like the fusion of human chromosome 2. We have endogenous retroviruses. We have the genetic record and the fossil record showing that we have long ancestry. Things like that. Evidence.
Fossil record of what?
Fossils.
That's great.
Yeah.
But what does that prove?
So with the fossil record, we have a clear record going into the rock strata, showing that the lower you go, the older the rock becomes. The older the rock is, the less formed and the less complex the fossils we find are, until we get down to single-celled organisms.
Well, for this discussion,
I'm sorry. Let me finish up one thing. Even without the fossil record, because I understand there's gaps in the fossil record. I understand it's a hard science because we're usually dealing with lots of fragments. We're usually dealing with things that might be difficult to identify, and mistakes have been made in how we've put together the fossil record. Like, I'll admit all that. And these are honest mistakes and honest interpretations and things we've gone on to correct. And we have more things to correct in the fossil record. Even with all that said, we could take the entire fossil record and completely ignore it. We could pretend we don't have a single fossil in the fossil record, and we have no such thing as a fossil record. We can look at genetics alone to demonstrate that evolution occurs. But anyway, go ahead. What are you going to say?
I was just going to say that for this discussion, you need to watch Kent Hovind, because he's really the expert on this subject.
I have watched a bit of Kent Hovind. And when I say a bit, I mean a lot. And here's the thing. So
I don't really need to repeat what he's already said.
No, you don't. Yeah. I'm very familiar with his thing. Let's talk about the genetics behind it. So the fusion of human chromosome 2. Are you familiar with that line of evidence when it comes to evolution?
The fusion of chromosome 2?
Yep, human chromosome 2.
No, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Okay. So chromosomes are basically
I know what chromosomes are.
Yeah, they're genetic.
26 of them.
Yeah, and
each.
Yeah, and the other great apes have more than that. They have 27, I believe. And
we have 20. We have 23. I'm sorry, I got
23 and 24. Yeah, I don't exactly. I have the video over here that I could bring up, but I don't want to bore people. But basically,
from the man, 23 from the woman, for a total of 46.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, chromosomes have markers in them. So if you can think of like little chromosomes like little rods, they have things called telomeres and they have things called centomeres. And so you have this genetic data. On the ends are the telomeres and in the center is the centomere. All right. And we have multiple pairs of these in our genome. Apes have multiple pairs of them in their genomes, but they have more than we do. So this potentially could be falsification of evolution, because you can't just drop chromosome pairs out of a species. It'll be generally lethal to the species or extremely detrimental to it. So one of the questions was, why do we as humans have fewer chromosome pairs than the apes do? And upon investigation, it was discovered that when the line that developed into humans branched off from the other great apes, there was an event where 2 of the chromosome pairs fused together into one chromosome or one chromosome pair. And you can tell because when you look at the chromosome pair, you can see a telomere, a centromere, a telomere, and another centromere, and then yet another telomere. You could see the clear markers that we had 2 chromosomes fused together. So if evolution were false, we would not have seen that. We would only seen just a telomere, a centromere, and a telomere. But because this fusion occurred, that's why we have a little bit less than the great apes. And that's why we can connect ourselves back to them, because we can see that we had the same amount of chromosomes. But once we split from them, we had an event that fused those 2 together. That's just one line of genetic evidence. And the thing is, the only way this can be explained away by creationists is to say God simply made it that way. God, for some reason, made multiple chromosome pairs within humans. And then for this one, he made this one differently. And he made it to look like two fused chromosome pairs that were put together. And if you do the math and you take those pairs apart, now we have the same amount of chromosomes from the great apes. And so that's one line of evidence.
And well, here's the thing. First of all, I'm not a geneticist.
I understand that. Neither am I. I probably explained that extremely poorly.
And the other thing is, if I was a geneticist, I wouldn't claim to be smarter than God if I was a believer.
Sure.
And so I would take the path of saying, I don't understand why this is, but I do know that God sets us up to follow a dead end road if we want to search for a different path. And that's what science does. Science follows many dead end roads that don't end up anywhere. They don't bring us anything of advantage. It just gives us an alternative belief system to what the Bible tells us.
So God sets up dead end roads for us to follow. If why?
So that you can trick yourself.
So God sets up dead end roads so I can trick myself.
Yeah, he'll set
isn't that itself deceptive? Because
very much so. Yes.
Because here's the thing: like if I genuinely want to seek truth and I'm going down one of these dead end roads,
it's deceptive.
Well, I'm genuinely trying to seek truth, but God's setting up a situation
that's
where
not a lie. That's not a lie. That's deceptive.
Isn't that deceptive though?
Not the same thing as a lie, is it?
Because God can see me genuinely seeking the truth.
Well, if you see a fork in the road, right, and one looks like it's nice and wide and easy to go on, the other one is difficult. Okay, you're going to wonder, which road should I take? You're going to probably take the easy road, right? You don't want to take that difficult road. That would be deceptive.
I think there'd be all kinds of factors of what road I would take. It would depend on the context and situation.
Let's say let's say you die, okay, and you wake up and there's two roads. There's one road that's wide and everybody else is going down that road. And then there's another road that's very narrow and steep and it looks dangerous. So you have a choice of which road to take. And you're going to think, well, everybody else is going down the wide road. I'm going to go with them, not knowing they're all going to hell.
How do we know any of this?
So
we're not getting into like theological claims.
I was just giving you an example of what deception, of what deception might look like. When you die, okay, you're going to be when you die, you're going to come back, whether you know it or not. And when you come back, you're either going to be facing judgment or you're going to be facing glory.
So let's go ahead and refocus back on to contradictions in the Bible and whether the Bible's perfect or not. So by your own admission, you're not a geneticist. I'm not a geneticist either. We have lots of different lines of evidence, genetic evidence for evolution. I'll give you one more before we. I'm
just going to have to tell you I don't agree with you. You can say it, but
okay,
you're not
fine.
an authority and you don't have any proof. So.
Well, no, we got plenty of proof. I can point you to the papers, and I can actually point you to videos of actual scientists.
I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't believe it. I don't care. You can tell to your audience.
I'm curious.
For me, I don't care.
I'm curious here. So why do you not care?
Because I know the truth.
How do you know the truth?
Because I read the Bible.
Okay. How do you know the Bible is truth?
Because it's perfect.
Okay. How do you know the Bible is perfect? We're going back to the same question.
Because it has prophecy. No, it's not. We're going in a straight line.
We're going exactly back to where we started.
No, we're not.
And this road ended with, how do you know this God is being truthful with you? How do you know God is being truthful? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, please. It's the word of God. It's perfect. It's true. And it has prophecy. And there's no other book that can have perfect track record of prophecy than the Bible. The Bible has a lot of prophecy that's already been proven true. You interrupt me.
There's a lot of claims here, and I like to interject here.
You won't let me finish my statement, and then
you can
go back. The Bible has a lot of prophecy that's already come true, and there's a lot of prophecy that hasn't come true, and that's the prophecy I'm looking at.
Okay. So pretty much everything you just said there is what a Muslim would say about the Quran. So have you read the Quran?
I have no need to read that trash.
Okay. Have you read any other books that compete with the Bible?
Yeah, sure.
Because you made the claim that the Bible does
I don't read the Quran, but I've read all about the Buddha. I've read all about the New Age. I know all that stuff.
You made the claim that the Bible does something no other book ever does.
That's right.
Right. Okay. Have you read all other books to verify that?
There is no other book that has a perfect track record. How do you know? There is no other book that has a perfect.
How do you know? You just made a. I'm sorry. I'm asking you a question on answering. You just keep
interrupting me. You won't let me finish.
Christ. I asked you a very.
My name's not Christ. Christ brings a sword, or you can call me CBAS.
All right, CBAS. I asked you a very specific question. All right. I'm asking for a very specific answer.
I'm trying to answer.
You made a concrete claim that the Bible does something no other books ever does, which requires certain bits of knowledge, specifically what all other books do. And by your own admission, you haven't read the Quran. So
why would I want to read the Quran? Have you read the Quran?
No, I have not.
Well, why would you suggest I read the Quran?
Because I'm not making claims
that's a hypocrite right there.
I'm not making claims about books I've never read.
Read the Quran. I'm not going to, I don't have to judge the Quran because I know it's a piece of shit. I know it's a piece of shit. Why would I read something I already know is a piece of shit?
I'm not asking you to read the Quran. I'm asking you to justify your statement that the Bible does what no other book does.
Let me read now. Well, can I answer without being interrupted this time?
Sure.
Oh, thank you. The Bible is perfect. It's numerically perfect. It's the Word of God. It has prophecy. Every prophetic utterance in the Bible has either come true or is yet to come true.
Okay. Those are all claims made
it's
about
all true.
Muslims.
It's all provable.
Those are all claims Muslims make about the Quran.
Well, you say that. I don't agree. They don't have any prophecy. What prophecy do they have? The prophecy that they have is taken from the Bible. They take their prophecy from the Bible.
I'm just telling you what they're saying.
Well, they're taking it from the Bible.
I'm telling you what they're saying.
Of course they have the same prophecy we have to a point. They have a different view on the end times than I have, but we both believe, the Muslims and the Christians both believe that Jesus is coming back. That's a fact. You're right about that prophecy. But they have a whole different take on what's going to happen when Jesus comes back. They think that they're going to bury Jesus in the ground with Muhammad. That's what they think. And I say Jesus is coming back to rule the world. So those are two different prophecies.
Let me reframe my question, and then we'll probably conclude the conversation because we're going on 3 hours and it's getting late. I'm an outsider. Okay. Do you genuinely want me to come to truth?
I would like you to come to truth if that's what you want, but not everybody wants the same thing I want. I can give you my word and ask for it.
I can give you my word right now that I want truth. Okay.
Very good.
So all right. So now we've established that I'm an outsider. I want truth.
Mm-hmm.
I take it that means that you want me to find truth because you said you want what I want, right?
I hope you find truth.
Okay. So you want what I want is how I'm interpreting that. I am an outsider. I have you on one side saying the Bible is perfect. It has a mathematical perfection. It is the word of God. I have a Muslim saying the Quran is perfect. It is the word of God. It is mathematically perfect. I'm getting the same claims from two different people over two different books. How do I differentiate between the two? How do I identify whether one book or the other is true, or maybe neither of them are true? What tool can I have and use to make that decision or help me make that decision?
Well, one of us is lying, and it's the guy who's talking about the Quran. And then if you look at the
that's a claim.
Let me finish. Let me finish, please.
I'm asking for a tool.
I'm trying to give it to you the answer, but
go ahead.
I'm on the road to your answer. Okay.
Okay.
What was the question? I've lost my train of thought.
All right, it's all right. I'm sorry I derailed you. I'm an outsider. I have two people making identical claims about their holy books. Both can't be right.
Right. Okay.
But they can both be wrong, because there could be a third holy book out there that is in fact the truth.
So my
question: what tool do I use to determine who's right and who's wrong?
Well, the tools I use are the prophecy, number one. Number two is the numerical perfection of the Bible and the incredible insights that the Bible has that you can only uncover if you take the Bible seriously. If you're just looking for problems, you're going to find anything that you can stumble upon. But if you just accept what you read as true, without any reservation, just accept it as true, and then you will open yourself up to understanding that wasn't there before. Because if you're going to deny every word of the Bible as you're going along, or trying to find something wrong with it, you're just not going to see the truth. The moment that you open up your heart and you say, I'm going to accept this as being the truth, because, for example, the book of Revelation in the King James Bible, if you remove all the hyphens, you get exactly 12,000 words. You don't get that from any other book, any other version. King James Bible only has 12 now. Why is 12,000 significant? This because we're talking about the book of Revelation. The number 12 is significant. The number 1,000 is significant. 12 times 1,000 is 12,000. Now there's some perfection right there that you can't see unless you investigate. That's just one example of many. Another example would be if you go into the
four. So let's keep it at one example. All right.
Right.
So here, we'll go ahead and end the conversation here, but I ask you to do this. Fine. Okay. Go back to when I asked my question and listen to everything you just told me. Then do this later. Not right now. Go back to my question. Listen to everything you just told me. All right. Put yourself in my shoes. All right. Everything you just told me. Imagine what I would think if that was coming from the Muslim side.
Okay. And it's not for me to determine what your mind tells you to believe. And that's up to you to make your own investigation. Hold on. To make your own investigation to decide for yourself which person is telling you the truth, or maybe both of us are lying, but that's up to you to find out. And the way I suggest you go about it is the way that you're doing it, which is to ask for the truth yourself between you and a higher power, whoever that higher power is, whatever you, if you believe in it or not, but you just want to say, I am going to put it out there for the highest power to give me the truth. You'll get it. That's what happened to me. I asked for the truth in the same way and I got it.
Okay. So if I do all this and I pick the Quran, what does that mean?
You chose wisely, chose unwisely. You did not choose wisely. If you choose the Quran, you know it's a lie. You already know it's a lie, right?
I don't think either are true.
But you know that the Quran is a lie.
I know the Bible is a lie as well, because I can
disregard that. You can just disregard the Quran.
Here's the thing. I asked for a tool to differentiate between your claims.
12,000 words in the book of Revelation.
And the identical claim. Hold on. Now you're interrupting
me.
12,000. CBAS. You're interrupting me. Please stop.
12,000 words in the book of Revelation. That's the tool.
Friend, please don't interrupt me. All right. My point is, everything that you just gave me is the same exact stick I'm going to get from the Muslim. I have nothing. I have nothing. They're going to have some arbitrary number on their side. I have nothing to differentiate between you two. And I specifically asked you, what can I use? What sets you apart? And everything you gave me is exactly what the Muslim would give me.
You have the power of free will. You have the power to decide for yourself what you want to believe. And the Bible reserves that free will for you to keep if that's your choice. If you want to deny the Bible's not going to prove you wrong. You're going to have to search for the truth yourself. And if you ask for the truth is in the Bible.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the conversation, CBAS. I appreciate you.
Take care.
Engaging with me, and you have a good night. All right.
All right.
Okay. Have a good night. Let's see here. Niddy, Alma, I'll bring you guys back and we'll wrap up. So I appreciate the maturity of the conversation compared to Wes. Definitely.
I mean, that went a lot better than what that usually looks like in live chat. So
I'm hoping that CBAS comes to understand the question I was asking, because like I have no way. I just walked away with that. I have no tool to use to differentiate between his claims and the identical claims coming from the Muslim about that holy book.
It's gematria, though, dude.
And appealing to free will, hand waving at free will doesn't tell me anything, because I can free will choose, honestly, the Quran, which is, I think, false. Like
or a book you wrote yesterday.
Yeah. So anyway, I enjoyed the conversation. It was a little frustrating once we got to the hey, set yourself apart from the other claims. I didn't get anything that I found really useful, but I appreciate if you're still listening, CBAS, I appreciate the conversation.
And the thing is that he hasn't even read the other book. to say,
that was kind of my point too. That was kind of a thing too. It's like, if you're going to make a claim that my book does what no other book does, that implies you have knowledge of all other books. And by his own admission, he didn't read the Quran, so he doesn't have knowledge of all the books. So I don't see that as a good reason. Anyway, I'm blasted. My pizza's probably getting cold. So we had a great night tonight. We had what, two theist callers. We peaked out at 42 people viewing. This is great for a second episode.
Oh, Eric, Made by Jim Bob wants to know if you stream during the day at all.
No, I work during the day, unfortunately, Jim Bob. So
I thought you were on PTO.
I am on PTO, but I want to at least relax and do things.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I said it last stream, one of the reasons why I haven't been doing much content is because this summer I was remodeling. Like, I think I joined your stream, Niddy, and I was like doing the middle of remodel, and I was in that big echoey room and covered in sawdust and crap. Yeah, it was just a very busy summer, and now I'm on PTO, so I am getting my weekly streams going again. I am working on a new video that's nearly done, but I'm still going to enjoy my day because I want to at least veg out a little bit and play some video games. I'm playing like Baldur's Gate 3 right now, and anyway, cool. So guys want to do any parting words, plug anything, do anything?
I'll probably do another stream this week. I'll find something to review. I actually have let's see, what do I have on my list here? Oh yeah, I want to do a stream about like the safety of doubt in Christian communities. So that'll be fun.
Cool. That sounds.
And then maybe I'll talk about my exchange with this pastor I have going over email. It's pretty fun.
Oh, cool. Yeah, email crawling is always fun. All right, cool. Yeah. Alma, you doing anything?
It's not this weekend. The next weekend, I'm going to be on Women Atheists Unload, where we're going to talk about the new abortion rules they're trying to pass, and why it's important for people to know what are they going to try to do with their rights.
All right, cool. And what we'll do is, if you both send me links to, Alma, I'm a little fuzzy on the exact channel you're going to be posting that on. So if you send me the link on Discord or on Twitter, sure. I'll add it to the video description, and maybe I'll add your thing to the video description as well. So.
Crystal already added the link.
Awesome. Okay. So
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, check out Pragmatic Crystal's comment timestamp right now to see Alma's upcoming live stream. Mm-hmm. And cool. Well, that's it. Well, hey, thank you guys. We'll catch you later. I'm going to go stuff my face with some pizza and probably pass out. So
enjoy your pizza.
Yeah, thanks a lot. All right.
Yeah, enjoy.
Bye.
Catch everyone later. Bye. How do I do outro music? Outro. This one?
There you go.